Especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy
They
there.
got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
All right, welcome back from lunch. Hope you guys all had a great lunch. Let's see. Hop out of chat. There we go. Oh no! Of course it disappeared. But I'm scrolling up through on the list here, and it looks like we have another repeat offender, or we have a repeat offender again. Golden Mom. The internet is pretty much yours. I think you've won more than anyone else. You're right up there in the top three if you're not the leader as far as internet ownership goes. Let's see. I was late. I apologize. Let's see. Golden Mom says I can't wait for Snapchat for the Snapchat witness. We'll be hopefully getting that this afternoon. I think that's what we're leading to as all this evidence comes in. I think logically that's the next piece. Okay, let's see here. Let's get this off here. Now we have to switch there. Okay, we're still waiting there. Okay, good. I think we all made it back. Let's just raise hand one time in chat if you made it back. Toxic, you beat me to it right there. Here. Let's see. T-Rock, Sunshine Sunflowers, Laura. Love Laura CP is here. Samantha Ritz. Let's see who else would have missed. DMB Secondus is here. TW, Miss Chris, Tony Fortune, Sharon McDonald, Creative B. Okay, I think that's as far as I got back on this one. Let's see. Okay, we got Ritz, Tony Fortune, Creative B, Laura Jimenez. Okay, BB. Good evening from Denmark. Let's see, where's BB's comment? I know you're in here somewhere. There's one of them. Okay, well, I found it. Oh, it helps if I put these on screen. I'm really bad at that lately. Okay, so Shells, Murray, Denise Fieldman, welcome back. CG in Texas. Brenda Meyer, when are they coming back? They're coming back actually in about 5 minutes. They'll be back in 5 minutes. Don't have a feed quite yet from the courtroom, but they'll be back here just a little bit. My dog Murray is here. I love you guys' names. They're amazing. I was late. Denise, I do apologize. Scarlett O'Hara is here. Ginger Meadows, Suzanne, Brenda Meyer. Verdict watch. That's going to be in the Jensen trial, right? I'm not sure if they're done. Have they finished the closing statements, closing arguments in the Jensen trial? It might be tonight or maybe tomorrow. I'd like it if it's tonight. Jensen trial still has rebuttal from prosecution to do. Okay, I thought they were doing that today, and then they were going to do closing arguments. I thought they were starting that this morning. Linda Hill, Samantha Terry, Marie, Victoria S, T-Rocks, Tom R. Someone's late. Who? Why y'all looking at me? Good afternoon, Sharon. Yes, horse sheet and bananas. You're here, and I'm late. I'll go ahead and type it in chat here just a minute. But it's not going to show me as being late because for those of you that program in Linux or something, you know what epoch time is, right? Epoch time is the date that Linux was created, the operating system was created. So all late determinations are based off what time I get here. So I don't think I can ever be late for that reason. Let's see. I'm not going to have time to go through roll here this morning. Let's see. MCAT, if anyone is here that was not here this morning, let's do that. Norma is here. Samantha Terry, tardy for the party. Yep, I was late. Sorry, I should have been here 4 minutes ago. There it is. There it is, pretty much. Probably a little more than that, actually. But Portland Trailblazers TV is here. Just waiting for a courtroom feed, which has not come in yet. Normally it's here by now. Because we've got like 4 minutes to go back. I want to see Alex come back into the courtroom after his lunch break. Ignore Me is here. Good to have you. And Bite Me as well. So Ignore Me and Bite Me, not related. Similar last name, but not related. Ola, Andy Cutright. I've been here since since then. Thank you. That's funny. I need my phone out of my pocket. It keeps buzzing. All right. Bill Bresky, good to have you. Carly, 196. Hello. Marie, haha, not related. Distant cousin. We're all distant cousins if you look far enough back, right? Mrs. Woolever. I want to call you Woolever for some reason. Those two O's, I just get excited and want more O sounds. Mrs. Woolever is here. Let me know if I can do anything for you. Thank you so much. Chandra, Abby UK, Matthew Harris is in the house. Hopefully he's had a productive morning. He's wearing his cowboy hat. He's got the hat tip going on. What does PLLC or PLCC stand for exactly? Let's. Is this going to be a wrong answers only, Matthew, or do you want to actually explain what it stands for? Let's see. Ivan Victor's here. Hello, friends. Missed the first hour due to banking issues. That's no fun. Hopefully that got sorted out and the bank made an error in your favor, as the Monopoly card says. Rarely happens for me, but hopefully it did. We're seeing the wall now, so we're getting somewhere. Hopefully we'll get some sound soon. I've got the rare jet flying over my house. It happens about once a week. And thank you for all of you who reached out to me on the burner phone regarding merchandise. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to review stuff that you've sent me and look at options and get back to you. I can't do everything at once, and we're a small channel, so there's very little I can do at start. But I want to figure it out. But people love closed captions. Pickle lovers love cats. I like this. What else do we have? What's another wrong answer only for PLLC? I like the people loved PLCC. People love closed captions. Could this be a double jeopardy case? Shouldn't be. People love Lawyers Club. That's from Matthew, the great Matthew himself. So let's see what happened to the guy who shot his foot. Found guilty on all 3 charges, the murder charges on that one. His sentencing hasn't happened yet. I think that happens like next month or something. He's a ways off on that one. Okay. Pickle lovers love crime. Yeah, Mr. Man Bun. We had a man bun in Jensen's case, the son in the Jensen case. Professional limited liability company. I think my dog Murray. I think you're actually probably right on that one. I have my direct deposits now set up to route through Cash App and auto convert to Bitcoin. My bank is bummed. Yeah, you're cutting them out of the mix. They want their piece of that pie. And I'm having little errors on my network. Are you guys seeing anything? My router lost its signal. Let's see here. Or not my router, but my iPad lost its signal to my router. Let me try this again. Or my switcher. There we go. Connect. Oh, it's back now. Okay. Oh, it's working. Okay, Tom R. is here. Okay, real answer. It's a professional limited liability company. It keeps me from getting sued so they don't get my yacht. Any of your yachts, Matthew, come to think of it. You know, the whole fleet, the armada, whatever you refer to it as, are probably safe under that umbrella of protection. A witness was wearing an offensive tie, and someone here, can't recall who, said it would also offend you. The fact was that the tie was crooked. It was a very poor knot. I believe it was the Verizon guy. Was it Verizon guy? I think it was Verizon guy. It looked like it might have been the first tie he's ever worn, and someone had probably tied it for him on their own neck and then took it off and gave it to him. And it never even got cinched up right. It was crooked. There was lots of things wrong with it. The only thing that could have been worse was had it been a clip-on, but which it wasn't. But it was close. Prisoners love long cuddles. Oh man. Please love like channel. I like that one. That's one of my favorite. What does MO stand for? What MO in what capacity? What does MO stand for? Point to where the MO is, and I'll help you. I'll explain it. I think you missed some of us. No problem. We know we're here. I did. I missed tons of you. I do apologize. I sort of jumped to the bottom because the courtroom feed came up, and I realized we just don't have enough time to go through roll. Judge is 1 minute late, probably because he was watching my feed for when he was supposed to come back, and he missed it. I posted a new video on posted a new how-to video that anyone with a teenager should go catch today. Thanks, Mutt. Well, if you click on, I think we can click on your channel, your name, and get there, or just search for True Celtic Mutt in YouTube and find him there. I didn't even equate the LLC to that limited liability company. If it ain't a bolo tie, it ain't a real tie. Does my OnlyFans count as an LLC? Great question, Ivan. Hopefully you have it all configured under the same business umbrella. Don't cross the finances, because that's where they'll get you when you cross the personal and professional finances. I prefer the zip-up tie, not even the clip-ons. Modus operandi. Okay, more overtime. I think this is the actual one. What's their MO? That's the modus operandi. They're basically what their usual method of operation. Mobile outbound. Oh yeah, from the cell phones. That's it. The O was for outbound. The MF was for I don't know anymore. MF was for voicemail, and MT means it was answered by the cell phone. So good stuff. Verizon witness explained multiple times what MO stood for, and Dick didn't get it. And he had the nerve to even say, I know this is technical, bear with me here, I'm trying to teach you something. And the guy's just like, really? I've said it 4 times now, you're asking the same question. I'm going to say it one more time and color it with crayon so you understand. The defendant in your YouTube picture looks scary, guilty in my opinion. That's why I chose that one. We pick the ones that make him look worst. No, just kidding. That was just the one that was available that I was looking for. I needed one that had a clean background that I could remove the background from easily. I know he looks a little different from the trial. I might actually change him to match up what he looks like in trial. I've got enough samples now. Major objection. No one knows. No one knows. You missed our, I can feel it. Must be the pickles had for lunch. So we're supposed to believe that Alex did not hear the multiple gunshots, went to the kennels, saw wife and son, checked their pulse, went back to the house to get a gun, and go back to the kennels? Yeah, that's I think what we're supposed to believe. Now, as some of the cell phone data comes out, and we learn time frames, and we might get some more time frame information from the when he was over at his mom's house with the assistant, the aide, the caretaker there. Things might not start matching up the way that Alex maybe described it. Makes me wonder if perhaps they may have been deceased before he went to check on his mom. And you guys have asked which way does he drive as far as where the phone went. Did the phone on the side of the road, was he supposed to drive that direction to go to his mom's house? I don't know. We'll hopefully find out. At least he ditched his biker bald head look. Right, that haircut did not look good on him. Some people can pull it off, but he's not one of those people. Let's see. How do you think the defense is doing in this case? I haven't seen a response yet. Oh, here we go. I actually think the defense is doing a good job. They've established that the crime scene wasn't preserved, poor evidence collection techniques, and can argue reasonable doubt at closing. Right. There is nothing the state has done that's convinced me that he's the guy yet. Now, I think we're going to get some information that's going to possibly convince us that he's lying about something. I think that the state will be able to prove that with hard evidence. But that's it. That's been my theory since day one, says Roxanne. A lot of people are also saying that he didn't possibly do it, but he knows who did, type thing. So it's sort of like the whole hitman for hire thing that comes up later in his own life, on the side of the road where somebody shot at him in the head and everything. Thought he was hairless because he was shot in the head. Nope, that was he did that shortly before, like a month or so before trial. He shaved his head, and it's been growing out since then. Ivan's money's still on hung jury. Very, very likely right now at this point, unless the state can do a much better job of proving something. Waiting for the smoking gun or the smoking Snapchat, right? Hopefully Snapchat today. If we can get the Snapchat in today, would be fantastic. Shave my head on New Year's and it actually suits you. All right, baby, that sounds great. Some people can pull it off. Alex is not him or her. Yes, many of us want him to be guilty, but not seen real evidence yet. Right. I think all of us can pretty much agree that he's got some character flaws, that he's not the white knight in shining armor that we might want to think. And Andy Mia says, Recovery Addict, good afternoon. When will the trial end? It has to start first. No, I'm just kidding. Right now we're on what, day 5? I guess judge calls it day 7 because he's counting the 2 days of jury selection. But we're counting day 5 since the trial started. That was opening statements. And I think we're slated for like 3 weeks or so, maybe 5. We've got, the witness list is like 255 people long. And we've had 10. We're still under 15 on the number of witnesses. So I don't know how many of those are not going to get called. But it's going to be a long one, especially if the defense drags out some of their cross-examinations of the witnesses, like we've seen previously. I'm going to be bummed if Snapchat ends up raising more questions than answers. Ivan, I think, unfortunately, deep in my gut, I think it's not going to be the smoking gun we want it to be. I think it's going to be pretty benign and basically of the same value that maybe the cell phone records are, as far as, we get a timestamp that shows that he was doing something at this time. And that's about it. That's my gut feel. Of course, it'll probably have more content in it. Most likely about the chicken. Is that what it was? About the dead chicken or something? We'll see. The phone on the side of the road is a problem. He could throw it out of the driver's side or throw it out of the driver's side and over the car going in the same direction. Right. It was just off the property. If we went back and looked at the property line, let's see, where was that? Let's see. I'm going to try to bring up, give me just a second. Let me bring up a couple windows at the same time so we don't miss anything. Okay, Super Source Box 1 is going to be 3, Box 2 is going to be 2, and I'm going to be in that one. Okay, switch to Super Source. Bingo, there we go, and get me out of the way. All right, so here we have this is the realty listing of the property, right? And it's beautiful, by the way. If you have not seen these pictures, the property is absolutely amazing. The stands of trees, just seeing it from the air is really cool. Let me go back here. The house is nice. Let's go back. This is looking down over the road. And over here to the left, down a ways, is where the phone was found. Over here to the right, just off screen, is where the actual kennels are located. So we've got the house up here. That was nice. Let's go down. We're going to scroll down actually to the map. Where's the map? I'm the map. There's the map right here. So map on the screen. The red outline is the property. You can see there are a couple parcels included in the property. And I don't know why it excludes this boundary. This just seems weird that there's probably a waterway or something that's not part of the property for some reason. And there's a right-of-way that runs right through here and a couple things like that. But as far as the cell phone, if we zoom in right here on this part, I need to use their zoom function, not mine. Sorry. My bad. Here we go. Zoom. Okay, so here we've got the house right here in the center of the screen. The kennels are right here up on the top. And then down the road, if you left from the kennels and went out to the road and turned right, or if you left from the house and went out and turned right, because both have entrances from the main road. They're on Moselle Road. You turn right and go down here. Right down in here in these trees, in this area, is where the cell phone was found. So just off the property line, right about in this area, just on the side of the road. And that was found using Find My Phone. So for that to work, the phone had to be connected, at least to the internet. It still had a battery, so it was still working. If we zoom out just a little bit, it'll give us a view of the surrounding areas. A lot of greenery, which is common out here in the West. You can see these greenways right here. I think that's going to be water. So you've got the river or sort of that goes through there. That's why it's so green and through sort of marshy actually in there. It's not good land to walk through, but good for hunting. Anyway, so that's that. I forgot what I was talking about. The cell phone on the side of the road being a problem. Oops. There we go. I need to see where I'm at. Let's see. Another fear of mine, it may came out later that he hired someone, then they blew the only chance they had to convict him of something. Oh, that's why you're talking about the double jeopardy. So if evidence comes out later, let me put your comments back on screen here. Sorry. If comments come out late or information comes out later that he hired somebody, they couldn't try him again. But in that case, I think it would be a different charge. And I think they could still press charges for that. That would be different. It's not the same charge that you're tried again for, even though it's involving the same murder. I think it's different enough. Yeah, that's a lot of witnesses, huh, Ritz? I'm sure we're not going to see them all. That's just all the potential ones as well. Let's see, we've got some activity in the courtroom. Let's see if we can go there now. Good morning, Your Honor, or afternoon. You got your Slurpee there? We need some convincing evidence, and I think we're going to have some.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, glad we can help, Ann.
Before the jury brought in, I have a matter of law I'd like to deal with.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we've been informed by the Attorney General has been very accommodating in telling him who he's going to call this afternoon or this morning. One of the witnesses would be Brett Dove, and Brett Dove, I think they'll agree, is the person that did retrieve the extract from, you heard the Secret Service agent this morning, and did some analysis on it. I'd like to show the court. Is this working? Can I have the Elmo on, please?
Yeah, this is the information we want. Brett Dove, huh? Jury are allowed to take notes.
State's exhibit number 299. Where can I see that? Okay, and this is what you're. Let me have you push it up in just a minute. You don't need to. That's a receipt of property for Paul Murdaugh's phone, and if you'll slide the thing down a little bit, no, the other way. You'll see that Bobby, what's his last name, Bancroft? Right. Received it from David Owens, who gave it to Bobby Bancroft, who then gave it to, gave it to who? R. Kelly. Yeah.
Everybody had this phone.
Right. And then Paul McGonigal, we heard from this morning, gave it to, he was at the Charleston Sheriff's Office, gave it to...
Yeah, that's what I heard too, R. Kelly.
Whose name is that? Looks like Brian Heddick, who gave it to, well, it got to Brian Heddick at Computer Crimes, I guess by Ryan Kelly. The point I'm trying to make,
his name's
Judge,
Ryan,
let me
R. Kelly.
Show you the second page, is there are a number of people in the chain of custody on this phone who haven't testified yet. As a result,
They want to bring them all in.
if Mr. Dove is allowed to testify about the contents of the phone, which he received from Secret Service, we believe that breaks, that would not complete the chain of custody. All we're saying is call these other people, and I mean, they're not going to be long witnesses, to complete the chain, to authenticate that what exactly came out of that phone was the phone that was found at the scene on Paul Murdaugh's body. I don't know if this is complicated or not, but
It's not complicated. What they're trying to do is
thank you, Your Honor. Just very
find a
quickly, as we look
weak
at the
link in that
chain
chain.
on and I'll take that.
someone who can say, I can't
On
testify that
Paul's
it's
phone,
changed.
and again, Mr. Conrad is going to call Lieutenant Dove here in a bit. We've had testimony from Jason Chapman about David Owen securing that phone. We've had introduction into evidence, Your Honor, without objection of both of these chain sheets. There was no qualification or objection to the information on these chain sheets, no hearsay objection or anything like that on both of these, which carried the chain all the way through. And then, of course, but we have testimony about the collection of that phone. We have testimony from multiple witnesses about the manner in which agents secure phones and the rest of that. And then we have testimony about that phone going essentially through a couple of couriers to Paul McManigal, who just testified as to his involvement with that phone, as well as to his delivery of that back to Lieutenant Dove. And then you've had testimony from Agent Van Houten, who received that phone and analyzed it and then delivered that back to Lieutenant Dove. And Lieutenant Dove is going to be here to complete that chain. So if you look at the case law, and we do have some cases prepared if you need them. Where's the copies of those, please, Your Honor? This is not fungible evidence, and the case law is very clear, Your Honor, that chain, you don't have to call every single person that touched the evidence throughout the way, that it only needs to be established as much as is practicable, and I think we've done that in great detail. In any
That's the critical question. Is it fungible or non-fungible? Is a cell phone fungible or non-fungible?
If you look at the exterior, it's fungible. You can't tell one iPhone 11 from any other one until you open it, okay? But is the phone that was found at Paul, is that the same phone? And that's why you have the chain. It was cracked open and they got the material from, they want Dove to analyze. It is, this is an iPhone 11, Your Honor. It's not Paul's.
And Your Honor, again,
Fungible or non-fungible?
I'd say that it's not fungible, Your Honor. And again, I think we've had, it's clearly not fungible, and there's been
Clearly not fungible. And you say clearly, what do you mean?
Well,
generally when things are clear, then we don't have a debate.
Fair enough. That's a good point. I strenuously object, Your Honor. I apologize. But anyway, Your Honor, when you look at something like cell phone evidence and you look at the class of types of evidence that are clearly fungible, those two are I think, different in the manner in which they exist and the manner in which they are. And I'm not aware of any case that's ever held a cell phone as to be fungible. It is a,
new word of the day.
Additionally, this particular
Seriously.
one, I'm sorry, John, what does that say? And additionally, this particular cell phone has a serial number and an IMEI that is specifically identifiable. The cell phones are not fungible. They are specific.
So it means it's replaceable by an identical
specific
item.
identifying information like that. And so again, I think that given the weight of that and the weight of what we have established, we more than established the chain.
No, chain of custody. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I apologize. Your Honor, I note on this chain of custody.
This is my phone. There are many like it.
There's no IME number.
But this one is mine.
On these documents, if you're happy, it's State's Exhibit 298 and 299. There's nothing on these indicates. It says matter of fact, the description is Paul's cell phone. There's no identifying data on this whatsoever. And by the way, I think we've been sort of lax. We should have asked all these witnesses how they know it was this cell phone.
Well, that was your job.
Serial numbers. That's water over the dam, under the bridge. But perhaps I should have asked that.
Well, and again, Your Honor, these came in without objection associated with testimony about that specific phone that people like McManigal and Agent Van Houten have specifically identified as associated with these chain sheets and with that specific phone. So again, I think that's a specific identification, and they are not fungible in that regard.
Again,
Cases that you said you have.
Your Honor, and I've got a copy right here. This isn't specifically, may I hand it up to Your Honor?
Yes.
Thanks, Ann. This is a great group. This community is just absolutely fantastic. I'm glad you found us. Welcome, by the way. Water under the dam or bridge.
State v.
again,
Pulley. State v. Pulley, yes, sir.
All right, and again, this is just a general, this isn't related to cell phones in specific, but it does talk about, establishing the chain of custody as far as practicable. And again, talks about where the evidence establishes the identity of those who have handled the evidence and reasonably demonstrates the manner of handling of the evidence, which we've had testimony as to both of those. Our courts have been willing to fill in gaps in the chain of custody due to an absent witness. Proof of the chain of custody need not negate all possibility of tampering so long as the chain of possession is complete. It goes on, Your Honor, and that, I apologize, that was from Head Notes 4, 5, and 6. It goes on to talk about
who's winning in your mind
perfect
here?
chain of custody is not required. I think the evidence here on the whole has been more than sufficient to establish the chain. And additionally, even beyond that, I think that none of that precludes Lieutenant Dove to testifying
in jail. He's in custody.
Given the foundation that's been laid, to testifying about the contents of that extraction, pending any additional witnesses that will come in. I don't think that's precluded at this time either. He can still go forward and testify as to the extent of his testimony about that extraction, and certainly understanding that any additional witnesses are still forthcoming. So I don't think that precludes him from testifying as to the contents of that extraction.
If the judge sides with the defense on this, prosecution has to subpoena R. Kelly and get him down here stat.
Head Note 4, when establishing chain of custody of fungible, bolded evidence where multiple people have handled or analyzed the substance, the identity of the individuals who acquired the evidence and what was done with the evidence between the taking and the analysis must not be left to conjecture. And there's nothing in any document we've heard or any witness that is specifically
The judge is right. It
identified
has to do whether it's
that I
fungible or
got
non-fungible.
cell phone M4381 and gave it to somebody else who says, I got that same cell phone because it had the same serial number. If that's not conjecture, I don't know what is. And again, what's the big hurdle here? He's got 3 people he needs to call. Unless there's a problem with one of them, that signed this document that didn't have it. And I think that this is an important piece of evidence, and we ought to just require what's
He's looking for
required.
that
This
problem.
case and every other case where there's a fungible item.
Your Honor, again, going back to Head Notes 4 and 5, testimony from each custodian of fungible evidence, however, is not a prerequisite to establishing a chain of custody. Again, we've had testimony about collection, we've had testimony about the manner of collection, and we've had testimony from those who actually analyzed it in the interim to get to Lieutenant Dove, who will then complete that analysis. So we've got testimony about collection.
What's an example of something that's fungible?
Supporting that, and then we'll have every person who actually analyzed it, and I think that's more than sufficient chain to establish its admissibility at this time.
Anything further? Last word.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense.
All right. To the
Dollar
extent
bill.
that this is a motion to exclude
Great
this
example.
testimony, the motion
Cash.
is denied. I do not believe that the portion of this case that State v. Pulley that says the identity of individuals who acquired the evidence and what was done with the evidence between the taking and the analysis must not be left to conjecture.
You guys are hilarious. You put it in terms that I can
I
understand.
believe that a cell phone is
Pick
not a
was
fungible item, but it is complicated to the degree that there was analysis done with the cell phone, but the testimony, particularly the testimony of Van Houten, sufficiently establishes that this phone was not tampered with, could not be tampered with,
so bad.
and I believe that the state has sufficiently established a chain. Cases have held that a perfect chain is not necessary, and I believe the state has sufficiently established
So
chain
we
of
can see a
custody
couple things from this.
to the degree necessary that the next witness can testify.
Judge is
So
siding
I
with the
deny
prosecution.
the motion, and the objection is noted for the record.
The fact that the defense is making this motion and still arguing it,
All back, we accept her.
I said it's noted for the record, yes.
basically they're preserving the right for appeal.
Bring the jury.
They're fighting this because it has some troublesome information on it.
Witness will testify.
Let's see, how long is this trial supposed to last? I can't remember anymore. Is it 3 or 5 weeks? It's a long time. I think it's 3 weeks. 369 weeks. Just over a year. Just go ahead and carve that time out of your life and don't miss a moment of it. I think it's 3. My money's on 183, over and under. Yes, Ivan is kidding. Half the time he's joking. You just got to know. All pickles are unique. They're non-fungible. I thought it was 5. Man, it might be 5. It's 5 or 3, one of the two. It's not going to be 2, and it's not going to be 4 unless it's also 5. Right? It's like, what's the Monty Python quote? 3 is the number with which thou shalt count.
Thank you.
Thou shalt not count till 2 unless it is
Thank you, Your Honor. The
followed
statement
by
called
3.
John Bettingfield.
We're going to have some timestamps, some hard evidence that's recorded in the logs about where the phone was or what it was being used for at certain times that might contradict Mr. Murdaugh's testimony or his story about what happened. I think that's going to be the problematic information for the defense. So 5 weeks from Carol, 3 weeks, but this pace probably longer.
From the testimony about to give the court of this trial shall be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Take a seat in the witness stand. State your name again, Caboose. For the records, spell your last name, please.
Looks like
John
we've got
Bedingfield, Bedingfield.
What's his nickname?
How you doing today?
Doing good.
His tie is crooked.
Tell us where you
Already,
live.
we'll cut it.
Barnwell.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You grow up there, or
Grew up there, born and raised in Barnwell. Worked there my entire career, 28 years with the Department of Natural Resources.
DNR.
Still live in Barnwell.
Okay.
where do you work now?
I'm the Region 3 captain, which is the Midlands region, Lake Murray, Lake Marion.
Yeah, it'll be done before Sarah Boone, for sure.
And is that a law enforcement position?
Yes, sir, it is.
Are you a Class 1 officer?
I am.
And you said you've been with DNR how long?
28 years.
Has that been the extent of your law enforcement career?
Yes, sir.
Are you still employed there?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any other businesses or any other economic stuff you're associated with?
I do. Back in 2016, I got a federal firearms license to sell and manufacture firearms.
He's the one that made
And
the
tell me how you got
300
into that. What
blackouts.
led you to develop that? Is that like a side business?
Side business is just a passion I had of
We're just going
working
to call
on
him
guns
Gunner.
and
Does that work? Can
building
somebody
guns,
give me
decided to turn it into business.
a text
All right.
with
And you
Gunner?
mentioned
This is the
federal
witness name.
firearms license. Is that what people know as an FFL?
Yes, sir.
All right, just tell me very quickly what it takes, what does it mean to have an FFL?
It means you can transfer firearms to individuals. You do a background check upon that sale or transfer.
Okay. If you're engaged in sort of the commercial sale of firearms or as a
Thanks,
business,
Adam.
do you need an FFL to do that?
Yes, sir.
All right, and that's different from private sales back and forth, is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. And with an FFL, does it come with an obligation to keep certain paperwork with regard to the firearms that you're involved in selling?
Yes, sir, it does.
And explain to me some of the paperwork
Adam,
that you have
I'm
to
gonna have
get
to
and some
replace
of the
yours.
paperwork you have
Matthew
to
gave us a
keep,
proper one.
when you're selling firearms.
Since he's a
with an
mod, we
FFL.
sort of have to follow
When a
the rules.
firearm comes in to me, it gets logged into a log. Upon its sale or transfer out, it gets logged out with the 4473 background check.
All right, and tell me what the 4473 is, please.
It's person's personal information, gun information. It gets called into the ATF, and it gets approved or disapproved for transfer to that individual.
Is that like a federal form?
Is there instant background check? Yes, sir.
Like every federal form's got a number on it?
Yeah.
And that's, what's the number?
4473.
4473? Is that the one where you have to check the form saying, I'm not a drug user, and I'm not a part of a terrorist organization and all that
Yes, sir.
stuff?
Thanks, Matthew.
All right, but you have to ensure that those are filled out with people that you want.
Yes,
He
sir.
made the 300 blackouts.
Yes.
He
What
assembled
type
them.
of firearms are you selling? I mean, are you manufacturing from scratch, or how do you do that?
Early on, I did. Wasn't lucrative enough, so I was just buying and selling.
Right.
So I would buy a gun, configure it, or buy parts, configure it as an individual wanted, and provide it to them.
Okay.
The components of these
And
sporting
so where
rifles
would you
are
buy
interchangeable.
parts from? What's a big
upgradable.
source of parts?
I've had numerous, but primarily Palmetto State Armory for AR-15 parts, but I've used 20 or 30 other vendors throughout the course of me having the license.
I wouldn't say
When
it's
people
super
think about
difficult to
an
get.
AR-15 style weapon, can that just fire like
involves
one caliber
compliance
of
and
bullet,
stuff,
or can
but,
multiple calibers
fees.
of bullets be configured with an AR-15 style weapon?
As long as they're compatible with the magazine system and the bolt carrier, many different calibers can be configured.
Like what? What's the most common AR-15 calibers?
223, 5.56, which are more or less interchangeable. 300 blackout, 6.5 Grendel.
Okay. All right, and the most common one you said was 223 and 5.56?
Yes, sir.
All right, 300 blackout is one you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me ask you this. Are you at all related to the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
I am.
All right, and what's the relation?
Our grandmothers were sisters. We're grown up with the Murdaughs as cousins.
All right, so you've known him your entire life for a
Yes,
long
sir.
time? Okay. At any point in time, did the defendant, Alex Murdaugh, approach you about perhaps assembling or making some firearms for him?
He did.
All right, and do you remember roughly when that was?
Would have been around Christmas of 16.
Okay, and what was your conversation with the defendant over there about what he wanted you to put together?
He was looking for a couple of guns for the boys to hunt pigs with.
Okay, and did y'all have a discussion about what type of gun, what caliber, and that sort of thing?
We did. I kind of steered him towards the 300 blackout just because of its effectiveness on hogs versus a 223 or 5.56.
All right, and just very quickly, between a blackout and a 223 or 5.56, why did you suggest a blackout as a more effective round than those?
Larger caliber, larger diameter bullet, a little more knockdown power for pigs. A 223 at that time, there weren't many larger or heavier grain bullets that were effective.
All right, so you suggested the blackout. Did he agree to that?
He did.
And again, he wanted these for the boys to hunt pigs.
That's right.
Or hogs. All right, was there a particular holiday coming up that he wanted them for?
Would have been Christmas of that 16 Christmas.
2016? Okay. Did you ultimately assemble some firearms for him?
I did.
All right, and describe those firearms for us, how they were configured, what was on them. Give us some detail about them, please.
Initial conversation, and part of why the 300 blackout was chosen was its ability to shoot subsonic ammo, and we had talked about possibly some suppressors for the same guns.
Let me slow you down real quick. Tell the jury what a suppressor is.
A silencer or a sound suppression device for a firearm.
So a subsonic round, you have to have a subsonic round for the suppressor to work. Is that correct?
It makes it most efficient.
Okay. All right. Keep going if you would, please.
That was kind of where I steered that way, but it was a pair of Palmetto State Armory lowers that I built some 300 blackout uppers for, and one was configured
Uppers and lowers are
in all
portions
black,
of the gun,
as he
just
requested,
sections
and
of
the
the
other
gun.
was Cerakoted, which is a paint finish, a ceramic paint finish, in a tan.
Okay. And when you say Cerakote, is that a service or
brand.
that you're providing?
It is,
All
yes.
right, and just very quickly, tell the jury what you mean by that. What is Cerakoting?
It's a refinishing. It's a paint job on a firearm. A lot of items can be Cerakoted, plastic, wood, whatever, but you blast the finish, original finish, degrease it, put a two-part finish on, and bake it on. It's a coloring.
So the black one you don't have to treat.
So I'm sorry.
The black one you didn't have to treat, like
Correct.
But the tan one you had to Cerakote.
Yes, sir.
Did the defendant request any sort of optics or scope on these guns?
Did. We put a pair of ATN thermal scopes on the rifles.
And what specifically, why are the thermal scopes good for hunting hogs, or why were they put on there?
Hog hunting in South Carolina is legal to hunt at night with the proper permitting, and it allows you to night hunt the pigs.
They're active at night as well. So that's one of the reasons why you'd want to hunt the hogs at night. They tend to bed down during the day in a really heavy brush. So you've got a subsonic round, so it doesn't break the sound barrier, so it doesn't make that crack that you
All right,
have to
Mr.
worry
Redfield, I'm
about.
going to show you what's
And then
been
a
marked as
silencer in
Exhibit
addition. It can be a very
302
quiet
for
gun.
identification at this time, and see if you recognize that image right there.
I do.
These are
All right,
some
tell
big
me what that
hogs,
is.
some wild
Those are
hogs.
the two 300 blackout rifles I sold Alex.
All right, those are the exact two in Christmas, is that correct?
Yes.
Christmas of
Those would be
2016?
the original two, yes, sir.
Okay, and, all right, let me, Your Honor, this time I would move stakes 302 in the evidence, please.
Admit it.
Let me put this on the Elmo real quick.
They also breed very, very fast. It's almost like rabbits, but they have tusks that they just tear up the ground with. They're dirty,
All right,
stinky.
can you see that on your screen there?
Yes, sir.
Very destructive.
And just real quick, if we look down at the end of the barrel on these, what are those things right there?
Those would be the suppressors.
All right, and tell me about this image. How do you recognize this image? What was going on when this image was taken?
That was the day I took the guns to Alex. I showed him, that's how I presented them to him. Again, with the suppressors are still in my possession. We never did the paperwork on the suppressors.
And let's unpack that a little bit. Where did you take those guns to him? Do you recall?
His office.
All right, and they're in some sort of case. Do you recall that case?
Yes, sir. That's my hard case.
All right, so you brought him in that case?
Yes, sir.
Did you leave the case with him, or did you take that back with you?
I have the case.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that we see the suppressors are on there. Did you ever deliver those suppressors to Alex Murdaugh?
I did not.
All right, now explain that to the jury. Why were you unable to do that?
To possess an NFA item, a National Firearms Act restricted item, where the federal government restricted the possession of short-barreled rifles, machine guns, suppressors, and short-barrel shotguns, you have to apply for a tax stamp through the federal government. It's a background check.
It's like a $200 fee
system
too.
That allows for the possession once you pass the background check.
Okay, and had Alec completed that additional paperwork?
No, we never completed it.
Is that, for the suppressor, is that additional paperwork in addition to what it takes to normally get the rifle?
Yes.
Okay. What was y'all's discussion, if any, about that paperwork and completing it and all the rest of it?
We had some random discussions. I'd egg him from time to time, hey man, let's get the paperwork going, and he was going to put them in a trust, which is an entity which would own the items. And we never got it all put together.
Because of the special legality about suppressors, is it common for people to set up a trust, a legal trust that actually owns those suppressors?
Yes, it is.
And that was the paperwork that needed to be completed?
That and the application side of it, but that was the biggest portion.
He was like, I'm going to get back to you, I'll do it, and just never did. Did he pay for those suppressors?
He did.
All right. He just never received them?
Correct.
Where are those suppressors to this day?
They're in my inventory at my business.
At some point in time, did you ever have another conversation with Alec about making another blackout?
I did.
And when roughly was that? Do you recall?
It would have been around April of 2018.
April of 2018. All right. And what did Alec tell you? What was your conversation with him about making a third blackout?
That Paul had lost or misplaced his rifle and he wanted to replace it.
Okay. And did you ultimately make him a third blackout?
I did.
Did this particular rifle, did you put any optic on it?
I did not.
All right. Did Alex say, don't put an optic on it because he already lost the other one?
Yes.
Those optics are fairly expensive?
They can be, yes, sir.
All right. And roughly how much were the thermal optics that we see on this particular picture that's on the screen, the exhibit I previously had admitted?
$1,500 to $1,800 each.
All right. So the third one did not have an optic on it?
Correct.
All right. And did you ultimately provide that weapon?
I did.
All right, well, tell me how you provided that. Did Alec pick it up or did somebody else pick it up?
He did not. When I let him know it was ready, he said he was unavailable and Maggie would come pick it up.
Okay. And is that what happened?
It is.
All right. And so tell me about that. Tell me about your interaction with Maggie when she picked that weapon up.
She came to town. We met, did some paperwork, and she handed me a check and drove back to Hampton.
And you gave the weapon, the
yes,
third
sir.
weapon?
Yep. She would have completed the 4473 with me.
All right. So you made 3 blackouts, excluding the optic, roughly in this same configuration. Maggie picked up that third one, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me show you some exhibits real quick. Show them counsel. All right, let me show you what's been marked, previously marked for identification as States 247, and I'm going to have you flip through those and just first tell me generally if you recognize the documents in States 247.
I do.
All right, tell me what those are.
The first would be the original check from Alec for the first 2 firearms, cancel check to me. Second would have been the third from Maggie, cancel check to me. The third and fourth page would be the firearm log.
And we'll talk more about that in a minute, but that's part of your firearm log, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and then I'm going to show you what's been marked as, hold on, I'm going to staple this.
Don't take those glasses off yet. You're going to need them here in just a minute.
I want to show you what's been marked as States 245 and see if you recognize this document.
I do.
All right, tell me what that is.
It is the original 4473 from the first 2 firearms to Alec.
All right, let me see this back real quick. Your Honor, this time we would move States 245 and 247 into evidence.
Admitted.
All right. Put these up on the screen. All right, this is States Exhibit 247, and we're looking now at the first page. Describe to the jury what that is, please.
That is the canceled check from Alec for the original 2 firearms.
For the original 2?
I don't think she was
And
a
what's
lawyer.
the price on that, please?
Let's see.
I can bring it to you if you can.
I got it, $9,188.
All right.
The check, no, sir. We retrieved that from my bank.
Got it. All right. Go to the second page of this exhibit. Do you recognize that? Tell me what that is, please.
That is the check for the third replacement 300 blackout to Maggie Murdaugh. That's the check she wrote to me.
All right, and what's the amount on that one?
$875.
All right, so the first one for 2 of them was $9,188, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the second one is only $875, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And is the difference between those that the second one didn't have the optic and didn't have the suppressor?
Slings.
Is that part of the difference?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, before we get to the rest of that exhibit, let me go to 245, and I'm going to show you this. This is what now?
That is the 4473 for the first 2 300 blackouts.
All right, and if we see down here in little letters it says Form 4473, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And these are all the questions that you have to answer to buy a firearm?
Correct.
Okay. And whose name do we have on this?
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
All right. And then right here, what are these 2 things right there?
That would be the serial numbers from each of the firearms.
All right. And let me ask you this real quick. With an AR style platform, is every part of it serialized, have a serial number, or if not, what parts are?
Only the lower receiver is serialized.
All right. And when you talk about the lower receiver, let me take this back up.
That's a lot of eggs, little miss. He's going to be a
Point to
wealthy
me
man.
what we're talking about on this picture.
This portion of the firearm.
Okay. And I'm going to put it back on the screen. I'm going to point to what you just did and tell me we got it right, okay? All right, so this portion right here is the lower receiver,
Yes, sir.
and that's the serialized portion, correct?
Correct.
All right. And finally down here, what do we have right there?
The date,
All right, and what's the date on that?
January 10th, 2017.
After these murders happened, did you ever get a call from SLED agent Jeff Croft?
I did.
Is that somebody you knew prior to this?
Yes.
Knowing him from growing up in Barnwell or living in Barnwell?
Through my law enforcement career, him at the county and our kids were in school together.
Did you have a conversation with Jeff Croft?
Yes,
Did Jeff Croft ask you to provide him anything?
he did.
And what did he ask you to provide him?
The paperwork you've just submitted, the 4473 and the canceled checks.
When you initially responded, did you send him the paperwork for all 3 blackouts that you made for the defendant? Or
Not initially, I don't think so. I don't recall exactly.
Just the first 2?
Just the first 2, yes, sir.
All right. And Did you have a subsequent conversation with him some point later in time?
Yes.
And what was the nature of that conversation?
That there was a third, and through an audit, I was able to backtrack and provide what I did on the third.
All right. So there was an inquiry made as to where there was a third one, and you said, yes, there was a third one.
Correct.
Do you have all your paperwork for that third one?
No, sir. The 4473 is unaccounted for.
All right. So you went back looking and you couldn't find it?
Correct.
All right. How did you make any efforts though to
That's not
determine
good.
which one that gun must have been?
Based on the canceled check, the date of it, and the only missing exit from my log, it would have been 111, I believe. Is that?
All right. I'm going to take you back, Exhibit 247, and have you look at the last 2 pages of that exhibit and explain to me what you're talking about.
So each firearm that comes in is numbered and described. It's a receipt and disposition form.
And what was different about 111?
It was blank.
Okay. So did you do some process of elimination here?
I did.
You looked at the date of that check in April of 2018 for the third blackout?
Correct, yes, sir.
And looked in your log, and this was the one that didn't have any other information in it?
Only one of many years that it could have even been.
So he lost a gun,
Put this up on the screen.
according to the paperwork. I mean,
And is this 111 right there that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we go over to the second page, and if they were laying next to each other, it's like a logbook.
Correct.
And if these pages were laying next to each other, this was
yes,
the blank
Roxanne,
one,
she
correct?
was.
Yes, sir.
If they've got a canceled check and a gun that disappears, that's what they're saying matches up.
After you received that second communication with Jeff Croft, did you provide him that log paperwork that we just looked at?
Yes, sir.
Have
blackout
you
is
amended
a,
your federal firearms license forms to reflect that now?
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
chambered
It was
rounds
a
that
missing
it's
form.
designed
I
for.
reflected it that it was sold to Maggie Murdaugh on 4/14/2018.
All right. How many blackouts, AR-style rifles, did you make for Alex Murdaugh?
3,
And when was that last one made?
2018.
April?
April of 2018.
Hold on for me 1 second.
It's more of a paperwork error, I think, on his part, which is bad because he's got the FFL, the Federal Firearms License.
Thank you, Mr. Bedingfield. Answer any questions the defense may have, please.
Let's see how this goes here. He's since corrected his paperwork, so he probably still has his license. Had he not accounted for it, it would have been a problem.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bedingfield. My name is Jim Griffin. I represent Alex Murdaugh. Can I have Elmo back? Did I lose Elmo?
Who took Elmo?
No, I just need Elmo.
It's just the name of the round. Some rounds have interesting names. Some have numbers. This one, just has a number and a name. A 300 blackout. It references the size of the bullet as well as sort of like the design and length and everything else.
Mr. Bedingfield, these were the 2 300 blackouts that were sold to Alec for Christmas in 2016. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And one was black and one was tan, right?
Correct.
And and you know which gun went to which son?
I don't recall.
All right, and then you built a replacement 300 blackout sometime, I believe you said in 2018. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And was that a tan one or a black one? That
It would have been black.
Excuse me?
It was black.
So
The third one, I'm sorry, was black.
The third one was black.
Yes, sir.
So if the tan one was lost in this, then Mr. Murdaugh would have had, or his boys would have had 2 black 300 blackouts
Yes, sir, I assume so.
after 2018. Okay. Now,
Paul lost the black
original
one.
price was $9,188 for
So he replaced that.
the 2 firearms that Buster and Paul got for Christmas in 2016, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that included the cost of the basic weapon, the AR, modified AR to 300 blackout, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then it included the cost of the thermal night scope.
Yes, sir.
And you said that's about $1,500 each?
I'm guessing at that, but yes, sir.
Okay. And then so that's like $3,000, but for 2 ballparking, right? And then the suppressors, how much are the suppressors?
They typically, I don't remember on those, but they around $1,000 a piece.
So that's another $2,000. So, but Mr. Murdaugh never took possession of the suppressors because it required some trust or some
more paperwork.
More paperwork. Okay. And but now the replacement that was purchased in 2018 was only $875. Did you build the replacement?
Yes, sir.
Did the price go down in 2018?
Well, the lack of accessories and the Cerakoting was included in that as well. Slings on this rifle, on the ones we're looking at here, were included in the first one.
So the stripped down model of was the replacement 2018 just stripped down model as basic as you could buy?
Pretty much, yes, sir. Similar configuration. As far as I remember, it was a free-floated 16-inch, 300 blackout.
Okay. And you assembled the ones in 2016 and the one in 2018, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And did you get the component parts from Palmetto State Armory?
I'm not sure exactly where they would have come from. The lower receiver would have been, yes, sir, but the upper components, I would source those out from different vendors. I'm not sure where they would have come from.
And when you, well, let me ask you about the, I guess the ejector. Do you know what that is?
Ejector? Yes, sir.
And is that upper portion, lower portion?
Upper.
And is it housed in a, would you put the ejectors in separately, or does that come?
In a bulk carrier group. They would be already pre-assembled in a bulk carrier group.
Okay. And do you know where you bought the ejectors for the 2016?
No, sir.
Do you know where you bought the ejectors for the 2018?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you keep ejectors in stock?
I wouldn't, no, sir. That they would typically be already pre-assembled in the bulk carrier groups on AR-15 style guns.
Right, but do you buy in bulk the pre-assembled bulk
No, sir.
carrier?
As someone requests something, I'll source it out, see where I can find it, and build it. Order parts to put together.
Are 300 blackouts sold without having to have someone like yourself build it?
Yes.
Okay, and who carries 300 blackout if I wanted to leave here, go buy one this afternoon?
Which everybody.
The most common in the state of South Carolina is Palmetto State Armory.
So they assemble
That's
them
where
themselves?
I was a dealer for them, and I was buying parts for them on a lot of builds as well.
And how long have you been selling or building 300 blackouts?
So I've been in the business since 2016, so there's a lot of other guns I've built as well.
And this list that you had, I'm not going to go through it, but it is Exhibit 247. I'll just put it up on Elmo right quick so I don't mess it up. Thanks. And we don't need to publish anybody's name there, but are all those 300 blackouts or just various?
Various. 45 caliber 9mm multi for the lower, 410 shotguns, 243 rifles.
Okay, take that up.
See you,
and
Grumpy
you said
Cat.
these are used.
Thanks for being here.
And that you recommended that these 300 blackouts be used for hog hunting?
Yes, sir.
And is that, I mean, in this part of the state, are wild hogs kind of a nuisance to game management, property management?
A severe nuisance, yes, sir.
And explain that, please, sir.
They do a tremendous amount of damage to property and crops in this part of the state.
How so?
They root, as pigs do, they root up crops and woodlands and yards. They're very destructive.
And is that a common problem throughout the Low Country?
Yes, sir.
And have you recommended to a number of the customers to 300 blackout to root out the nuisance
Yes,
pods?
I have.
Do you have any estimate how many 300 blackouts you've sold over the last 4 or 5 years?
No, sir, I wouldn't. I've a little over 600 firearm transfers. I wouldn't know.
Think it's more than 100?
I don't know. It's a lot, but I don't know how many.
All right. The, okay. You mentioned that you and Alex Murdaugh are related, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How are you related?
Our grandmothers were sisters.
Okay, and does that make, and your...
I'll call us second cousins. We're cousins.
Your fathers were first cousins, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you spend, over the years, you spend time with Alec and the boys?
I have. Not a lot with Alec, mostly with John Marvin.
And you go, have you been camping with Alec and the boys at, I think they had a big, Dad used to host a big camp every year?
I have.
And you been fishing with them?
Not much.
Been hunting with them?
No, sir, not Alec.
Okay.
I have with John.
Right. You've known Alec for quite some time?
My entire life.
Are you, well, a gift of some $8,000 is a pretty nice gift for 2 boys, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever observe Alec around his sons? What kind of relationship they had?
I have.
And how would you describe their relationship?
It was always good. When he called me, he was excited about getting these for his boys.
And it was a big Christmas for them, I
Yes,
take
sir.
it. Okay. All right. 1 second, Your Honor. Is it less expensive to buy a 300 blackout directly from Palmetto State Armory rather than have you build one?
It can be, depending on configuration.
And all the...
Any accessories that get added. And
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Very quickly, Your Honor.
Sorry, I'm awake.
You mentioned that one of the services that you provide is the Cerakoting on the tin one, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's kind of a painting process, painting and then bake it, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if someone has a gun and, is it just tan you Cerakote it, or are there multiple colors you can potentially
Multiple
Cerakote?
colors.
Multiple colors. So if you want to customize your firearm, you can take it to somebody and get them to Cerakote it.
Yes, sir.
And I can have a gun I've owned for 10 years, and I decide that I want to get it Cerakoted, and I can take it to somebody who can put it in the color that I desire.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't have to happen right at the beginning.
No.
Okay. All right. And
I think the state's trying to say there are 3
right
guns,
here on,
and the defense would
page
rather you think they're just 2 because one's
third
gone.
page of state's,
There being a missing gun and a gun that was used in a
247.
murder that they can't find, that's convenient for the state.
We have right here multiple calibers of gauge. Is that correct? We have caliber of gauge listed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And we have a number of different ones right here. That's 45.
Yes, sir.
Is that 45 ACP?
Colt 9. Yes, sir.
All right. 9, is that 9 millimeter?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we have, what does that say right there?
Multi. Yes, sir.
And what does that mean?
The lower receivers are stamped multi-caliber when they're sold as bare receivers.
410, that's a shotgun round?
Yes, sir.
All right. 243, that would be?
A 243 center fire rifle.
All right. 223 right there?
Yes, sir.
And the 9 millimeter right there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you're in the business of assembling multiple different calibers, is that correct?
Well, yes, but most of what is on this page are entire firearms that were shipped to me.
Gotcha. All right. Stand by for me 1 second. All right, nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further? Thank you, sir. Call your next witness.
State calls Lieutenant Britt Dove.
Okay. Lieutenant Dove, he's the one that analyzed the cell phone data from Paul's phone. I think we're getting closer to the Snapchat info.
Raise your right hand and hand on top. You affirm the testimony you're about to give this court in this trial shall be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name again as you took the witness stand. Spell your last name for the record, please.
We're getting closer to the cell phone data. I think we'll hear it here, AJ.
Britt
Which will be
Dove,
fun.
D-O-V-E. I go by Britt. I'm known as David Britton Dove.
And Lieutenant Dove, where are you currently employed, sir?
For the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, known as SLED, and the Computer Crime Center.
And what's your rank?
I am a lieutenant in the unit.
So you're in a supervisory capacity over the computer crimes unit?
Yes, sir, I am.
And how long have you worked at SLED?
I began my career at SLED in June of 2008.
And did you have law enforcement experience prior to working at SLED?
Yes, sir, I did. I began my law enforcement career in December of 1999 with the West Columbia Police Department. I served as a patrol officer and a school resource officer with them. I also was with the Richland County Sheriff's Department for several years as a resource officer. And then I came back to West Columbia as an investigator, handling family violence, elder abuse, child abuse, sexual assault investigations before coming to SLED.
And since you've been at SLED, I believe did you just say it was 2008 when you started SLED?
Yes, sir.
What roles have you filled at SLED since 2008?
When I began at SLED, I began as the undercover chat specialist dealing with internet crimes against children and also doing digital forensics, whether it be computers, cell phones, tablets, at the time GPS systems. From there, I moved into the role of working with file-to-file trading of child pornography and dealt with that. And then from there, I moved into the role of doing general investigations while continuing to do digital forensics before I became a supervisor.
All right, and you're a supervisor over computer crimes, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
And just briefly, what exactly does computer crimes do at SLED?
Computer crimes at SLED, they do several things. One, when local agencies submit digital evidence to us, whether it be a laptop, a tower, tablet, DVR, cell phone, servers, we will go and try to extract the information to look for anything that's relevant to the investigation. We also do handle some investigations. We also do internet and other kind of investigations, along with doing intrusion investigations on servers and ransomware.
Okay. Now, you've talked a little bit about computer and phone forensics, and that's something you have experience in, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Give the jury a brief description, and we'll get into more details later as we go through some of the evidence, but what is computer forensics and what is phone forensics, and how are they different?
Computer forensics, when we receive a computer, whether it be a laptop or a tower, it's going to be treated the same way. We're going to attempt to remove the hard drive from it, connect the hard drive to a physical write blocker, which is a piece of hardware that we connect it to. We also use a software write blocker. That way we can extract the information and get a bit-by-bit forensic copy of all the addressable area on the drive. And then that way, that's what we work off of, is that copy, so that we can then do not disturb the original evidence when we're looking to see what's on there. Cell phone forensics are a little bit different. You can't remove necessarily, especially with the newer ones, you can't go and remove a hard drive from the cell phone. So many times what we have to do is connect the cell phone to hardware devices, whether it be Celebrite, Gray Key, Axiom, or one of the other ones out there. Once we connect it, then we will extract the information from that and then work off that information that's extracted from that in order to do the examinations.
Okay. All right. And have you had training over the years in computer and phone forensics?
Yes, sir, I have.
All right. Can you briefly describe to the jury some of the training you've had?
Yes, sir. If I may refer to my notes. I am currently a certified Celebrite operator. I'm a Celebrite certified physical analyst. I'm certified in advanced smartphone analyst with Celebrite. I'm certified with used to be Black Bag Mobilize operator. I'm certified as a blacklight examiner, and I've also received certification for Axon, Investigative, Certified Operator, and Examiner. I'm currently a member of the Secret Service Task Force. I'm also a member of the FBI Cyber Working Task Force, and also the FBI InfraGuard, along with the South Carolina Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I've received training from Celebrate to receive these certifications and been tested on those. I've also received training with the National White Collar Crime Center for basic data recovery and acquisition, identifying and seizing electronic evidence, encryption, metadata and EXIF tags, electronic law enforcement seminars, basic computer skills for law enforcement, network intrusion response program, introduction to cell phone investigations, virtual currency, blockchain tracing and cryptocurrency anti-money laundering, and the future of preserving digital evidence. I've also attended the National Computer Forensic Institute with the Secret Service and received training in the basic computer evidence recovery, basic network investigative training, point of sale training, advanced forensics training, network intrusion response program, digital evidence investigations, MAC forensics training. I've also received training from Access Data, also known as FTK, and Internet Forensics.
Did he say point of
I've
sale?
received training from Texas A&M,
Like a
their
Square
School of
device or something?
Engineering Extension Services through FEMA for forensic or digital forensics basics, network assurance, information security for everyone, cyber incident analyst and response. Also received training from HIDA courses, Atlanta, Carolinas, and social media resource investigations. Black Bag as technology, where I received training to become a certified mobilized operator. Also with basic technology for autopsy 8-hour online training, which is a forensic tool to
There it
use
is.
for computers.
Online training.
Intro to DEFR.
He's a
the
YouTube
divide
expert.
and conquer process. I've attended magnet forensics virtual summits for pattern of life analysis, timeline user generated activities. Virtual summit, taking a bite out of a Chromebook analyst. Virtual summit, taking the first steps into Windows and memory forensics. Virtual summit, the evolution of ransomware, attack, investigation, response,
He's listing
and
all the
prevention
classes he's attended.
services. That's just to name a few. I have several more pages of them if you'd like me to read them.
I think that should be sufficient for now, anyway. All right. Have you been
Order.
qualified as an expert in court before?
Yes, sir, I have.
In what areas?
I've been qualified as a computer forensic expert and also as a cell phone forensic expert.
All right. Approximately how many times have you been qualified in court?
6 times total.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to introduce Lieutenant Dove as an expert in cell phone forensics.
As a defense.
So he professionally takes courses on the internet.
Qualified as an expert in the field of cell phone forensics. You may proceed.
Thank you.
That's a lot of classes in
All
a lot
right,
of different
Lieutenant
areas.
Dove, a few minutes ago, you briefly kind of discussed the process of extracting data from cell phones. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right, let's get into a little more detail of that process. First of all, when you receive a cell phone in a locked state, are you able to access the files on that phone?
No, sir. We're not able to access all the files on there.
Why is that?
Because with modern cell phones, when they are in a locked state, the files are encrypted on there. They usually use 256-bit encryption, and they're based with the Apple phone, for instance, they're based at a file level encryption so that you are not able to pull the file out and look at it until you decrypt it or unlock the file.
All right. And once the phone is unlocked, you're then able to access the data, correct?
Yes, sir, we are.
What is a phone extraction, first of all, and then what's a phone extraction?
A phone extraction would be us retrieving as much information, user information off of that phone as possible. And then once we take that information, it's put into, depending on the software, a lot of times it's put into a zip file. And then we'll process that zip file with another piece of software to go through and decode and look at the information.
Okay. And what kinds of information can you get from a phone via an extraction?
There are several different types of extractions. One is an advanced logical extraction, which is kind of the surface level, what you would see on your phone if you looked at it. Then you have full file system extractions that go deeper, which will get hidden files that you may not see, like databases in there that will run in the background that you won't see, but yet it contains information. And then the ultimate is a physical extraction. Now, physical extraction involves things whether you're going to root a phone or you're going to jailbreak a phone. And what that means is, basically, I'm going in and removing all security features from your phone so that now it's wide open and something could happen to it, which we don't practice rooting or jailbreaking phones because it is a huge security risk for the owner.
And I think you kind of mentioned this, but there are different types of phone extractions, correct?
Yes, sir, there is.
And just name a few of them.
There's the advanced logical extraction, like I described, it's just kind of the surface level that you go through. It's what you see on your phone. If you look at it, you see the text messages, call logs, pictures, things like that. Then you have the file system, which are going to get you databases in there. They're going to get you things that you're not seeing, along with the surface level. And then, of course, you have the physical, which ultimately gives you programming ability to the phone.
So there's three general categories or types of extraction.
That's Elmo, tar healer.
Yes, sir.
Looking at Elmo.
All right. And imagine in doing this in your computer lab, you have access to multiple types of software to help you extract and process this data off these phones. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
All right. And what's some of the software you use to help you with these phones?
Some of the software we use, we'll use Celebrite, whether it's their UFED Touch, which is a hardware device to extract information. They have a 4PC version, which is it sits on your laptop or your computer. We'll use that to extract. There's also Axon by Magnet Forensics that we'll use to extract stuff too. And then Celebrite also offers several other things. The one we'll use a lot is GrayKey, which we use to extract information from iOS devices or from Android devices.
Okay. And how do you decide what software to use on what device?
It really depends on what we're looking for and the state of the device when we receive it. If we receive a phone that we have a passcode to they're just looking for call logs and pictures, the investigator, sometimes we'll just use Celebrite for PC or physical analyzer, and we'll just do advanced logical extraction for them. Most of the time, though, we always try to get a full file system because there's additional stuff we can see and look at besides just that surface level stuff. So if it's an iOS and Android, sometimes we'll use GrayKey. If it's one of the other ones, sometimes we'll reach out to the Secret Service if we're not able to and use Celebrite Premium.
And we'll talk in more detail about each phone later, but in terms of your testimony today, we're going to focus on three different phones, and that's Maggie's, Alex's, and Paul's. And you've been able to process all those phones in your lab, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I was.
Just for Maggie's phone, what types of software did you use to process her phone?
You can get one for $20.
For Maggie's phone, I
picture.
used several different softwares. I did the extraction with GrayKey in order to get the full file system, like I described. That way it gets more of the databases, more of the surface level stuff. From that, I used Celebrite Physical Analyzer to go in and do the decoding and to analyze and look at the phone and the information on there. I also used Axon by Magnet Forensics. I used their tool to help validate what I was seeing with the Celebrite stuff.
And why do you use the three different types of software in this? Why did you use three different types of software on Maggie's phone?
GrayKey is primarily just an extraction device. Okay. It's a piece of hardware like a box that you would connect to, and it helps to extract the information. It doesn't do any of the decoding or any of the analyzing of it. I used Celebrite Physical Analyzer to go through to decode and do the analyzing. What I was finding on that, I want to validate that what I was seeing was being decoded properly and was right, so I ran through a separate piece of software so that I could see, and if it's getting the same information, then I know that both are decoding properly.
So, for example, if you find a particular text or photo that has a certain timestamp on using Celebrite, you want to check on Axiom to see if it has the same timestamp. Is that something you'd look for?
Yes, sir. Correct.
And what would that tell you if you saw they had the same timestamp?
If it told me it had the same thing, they would have validated each other, that both were working properly and decoding the information properly.
All right, and you received a phone that's been identified, that you identified as Alex's phone, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And we'll get into the details of you receiving it a little later. What pieces of software did you use to analyze Alex's phone?
Alex's phone, I used Graykey to do the full file system extraction. At first, I didn't have the password for that phone, and then I was able to obtain that password. So I used it to the full file system, and then I ran it through Celebrate Physical Analyzer, and then turned around and used Axon to validate my results to make sure they were decoding properly.
Okay. And Paul's phone, which you've had an opportunity to process as well, correct?
When I received Paul's phone, it had a locked passcode that I was not able to bypass with Graykey. At the time, the software version that was running on the phone, the model of phone, it would not get a full file system and would not obtain the passcode. So I reached out to the Secret Service because they had additional resources to see if we could use their resources to obtain the passcode and the extraction.
And ultimately that was successful, correct?
Yes, sir, it was.
And that was John Van Ouden with the Secret Service?
Yes, sir. That was my point of contact. That's who I took the phone to and signed over to. And then I received the phone back along with the hard drive containing the extraction he had performed.
All right. And circling back to Maggie and Alex's phone, you provided passcodes for those two phones.
We'll be here. Have fun.
Originally, I was provided a passcode for Maggie's phone.
I'm actually loving
for
this.
Alex's phone, I received
like the
two phones at the same time on that case, or within a day or two apart. One was from him, had a passcode. The other one did not have a passcode with it. But I attempted, because we were creatures of habit, to use the same passcode on both, and it worked on it.
Okay. All right. Let's. You've already referenced
Hang on.
this, but let's go back and talk about
The same
kinds of
passcode on
information
both
you pull off
phones
these
worked?
phones.
Is that what I just heard?
And there's user accessible information that would normally be accessible by a user of the phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And let's run through real quick again. What are some examples of that type of information?
That would be call logs, voicemails, photos. If you wanted to pull up and see things you had saved, like your alarms that you had on your clock setting, if you'd set any of those kind of things you would see on there.
All right. And in a nutshell, that kind of information, if you just opened up the phone itself, that's kind of the information you could go and see for yourself if you just went through the phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. But there's other types of information on the phone as well.
Yes, sir, there is.
And that's information that a simple user can't necessarily access. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right. And
So you've got Paul that uses his
tell
own
us more
birthday
about
as his
that
passcode,
information.
and his
First
mom
of all,
that uses Paul's
where is
birthday
it
as her
stored, how is it
passcode.
stored, and how is it accessed by your in your lab?
Phones use many times SQLite databases to store information. They will go in, and inside those SQLite databases are things we're able to obtain by doing the full file system extraction. And things you may see in that from a big one's called Knowledge C database. You can see if the phone has been turned, if it's in portrait mode straight up and down, or it's been turned to vertical and landscape mode. You can see if the power goes out on a phone from the power log database, and what kind of battery percentage you may have. It also will have things in there in the encrypted databases. It'll have geolocation stuff from GPS stuff. It'll contain things like Bluetooth connections, where you can see if your phone connected to a Bluetooth device previously and when was the last time it connected to it. And those are some of the things you can find in the different databases.
All right. You just used a few words there. First of all, I think you said SQLite, right?
Yes, sir.
What is that, and what does that mean?
The SQLite database is a database that's contained, the best way to think of it is think of just one solid file. All the information is contained inside that file. That file will go through, and once it fills up, it will delete out the oldest stuff and keep the newest stuff. If you think about your phones, you use your phones a lot. Usually what's going to start filling up on your phones are photos, videos, music, apps when you put those on there, those kind of things. And you'll start losing size on your phone. Well, the SQLite database, because it's a file, it's not going to continuously grow and eat into all of that space. It's going to take up a certain amount to begin with because it's an operating system. but it stays within that contained file, and that's where the information is. And it's also set up by tables too. So you would have to go in and look at the different tables to be able to interpret the information.
Okay. Now, those types of databases, I think you just said, are typically self-contained.
Yes, sir.
And they don't just keep writing to cover the entire phone memory, do they?
No, sir. If you had a SQLite database like Knowledge C, for example, it's not, if you just continuously took your phone and went and changed the orientation of it, or you went and started doing things like plugging it into an outlet to charge up or unplugging it, doing different things like that, it's not going to eat up all your memory in the phone. Your memory is going to be mainly eaten up usually by photos, videos, apps that you download, things like that.
And is there a shelf life of this type of database information on a phone? Does it overwrite itself after a period of time?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. And just generally speaking, how often is that type of database stored on a phone? How long is this for, I should say?
It depends. Depends on how much you're using that database. Some databases will do, it may overwrite information if you're using a lot within 2 days. If it's a location, like an encrypted cache database, it may hold it for 45 days. It's just going to depend how much, because it's self-contained, it needs that room. So it's always the newest in, the oldest out on that database, and it goes through constantly doing that. So it depends, it really depends on how much you're using that database, whether you may see something that's 45 days old in there, or you may see something that's 2 days old or 2 weeks old.
All right. And you mentioned a Knowledge C database. Is that a type of SQLite database?
Yes, sir, it is.
And what are some of the things you would expect to find in a Knowledge C database?
Many times in the Knowledge C database, you'll see different things where you may see orientation changes. You may see if somebody pushes a button on their phone, like a power button, or used to be a home button in the older model of iPhones. You could see different things like that. You can also see things that will talk with the power log database, where it'll show you the % of battery life you have left. If you plug it in, you start charging it. It'll go through and look at all those kind of different things to see, or just a few of the things it'll look at.
Okay. All right, and you mentioned location storage, and that's a type of Knowledge C database, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so it's not unlimited storage for location points on a phone, correct?
Well, let me correct that. Actually, Knowledge C, you have separate databases that do location.
Okay.
You have the cache database, you have the cache encrypted database, or just to name a few that will save location information.
All right. And so phones, depending on how the user has their settings, will store location data, correct?
Yes, sir. A user can make a selection on their phones whether they want to always give out their location only while using an app or never. It's a setting that a user gets to choose if they want, or it sets by default.
Sorry. And what are the different types of location data that a phone can store?
A phone can store many things. It can store cell towers that it's seen, depending on the database it comes out of. If it's the encrypted cache database, a lot of times it'll tell you what networks it's seen, but will not tell you the exact date and time that it has seen those networks. But it will tell you it's at some point in its life it's seen this network at this location. You have the cache database, many times it'll go through, and that'll be pulling GPS information. You'll have also databases that'll pull cell phone tower information if it's available.
And just, again, generally speaking, would GPS location information be more accurate than something like a cell phone tower location information?
Yes, sir, it would be.
All right. And again, speaking generally, Lieutenant Dove, when you do a phone extraction, are you altering the data that you're pulling off the phone in any significant way?
No, sir, we're not.
Okay. And how do you tell that? How can you know that for sure?
For example, if we use a phone, you use Gray Key to do the extraction on it, it'll produce a report, and in the report it'll tell us if it was successfully pulling it. It also will give us an MD5 hash value at the end, which is a mathematical algorithm that goes through and computes a very long number with letters and numbers. We can then take the extraction and run our own hash against it for an MD5 and compare it with another tool to make sure those two numbers match, and that means that no data has been altered.
Okay. And have you performed these MD5 comparisons for the 3 phones we're going to talk about today?
Yes, sir.
And you're confident in telling this jury that nothing you did significantly any of the data that you're going to tell them about today?
Correct.
All right. Let me ask you real quick, what is a Faraday bag?
A Faraday bag is a bag that's used to put items in that can receive cell phone, Bluetooth connections, Wi-Fi connections, GPS things. It helps to block those items from being received on the device.
Okay. And are there other ways to block a cell phone from receiving those types of signals?
Yes, sir.
And what are some of those ways?
You can also place the phone in airplane mode. In airplane mode, when you set your phone to that, you will not be able to receive any Wi-Fi connectivity or cell phone connectivity from the cell towers. You can also remove the SIM card. It's another way of ensuring that you're not receiving those things. The difference in airplane mode versus a Faraday bag is that the phone will still be able to receive GPS coordinates.
Okay. All right. And what danger are we concerned about when we talk about putting a phone in a Faraday bag or in airplane mode?
That somebody could wipe the phone remotely.
Okay. And specifically, when you say somebody, who?
Anybody that would have, take an iPhone for instance, if somebody knows a user's iCloud name and password, they could get on, say the iPhone's lost or stolen, and it will wipe that phone.
Okay.
Everybody has to know what a Faraday cage is, apparently.
And so somebody has to have the Apple credentials if it's an iPhone. It would have to be that person who could wipe that phone remotely, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there a way for someone to remotely alter the phone in any way short than just a full wipe?
You could do it by connecting a phone and doing an iCloud backup, for instance, with an iPhone. And then you would have to go through and remove whatever you wanted to, and then you would restore that phone to the previous iCloud backup you did. And then that way the phone would only go back to that previous state, and that's what it would show you.
Okay. But is there a way to remotely, other than the process you just talked about, is there a way to remotely access a phone and, say, alter a call log, for instance?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Or any other piece of singular data on a phone? Is there a way to alter it remotely?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And in terms of policy, is for SLED, is a SLED policy to collect phones and put them in a Faraday bag?
No, sir.
All right. Is there a SLED policy that governs how to collect cell phones from a crime scene or otherwhere, or from elsewhere?
The manual for evidence collection through the forensic lab discusses taking a phone and placing it into airplane mode if available and removing the SIM card.
All right, let's talk about time real quick. How does a cell phone time, how is it set? Let me ask you that. The time you see on a cell phone, how is it set?
Cell phone time is set through the provider. Most of the times the phones will come default, that they will auto set to whatever time zone you're in, along with your provider, whether it be T-Mobile, Verizon. It sets through their servers. That way they know how to bill people, and they can also check it for usage time too.
Okay. And is a cell phone kind of like my oven where I set the time and a year later it's like 10 minutes off?
No, sir, not usually, unless you went in and removed the auto times on it. But then you would see traces of that when you look at it, that somebody's changed the time zone. It will go back to the original time zone. Whereas if you drove from South Carolina to Alabama, for instance, right after you cross that state line, within a minute, your phone's going to update to that current time zone, which is an hour behind us automatically.
All right, and so when we compare two phones and we compare events on two different phones that occur, either at the same or similar times, Are those time references the same?
Yes.
And how are those time references synced?
They're synced through the server. Each phone's going to be synced through the server individually, and then when you look at them, you can see what time zone they were set in, along with the reports, along with looking to see, and then you can always confirm if you needed to through like call detail records or something else if you want to go another step into validating the call logs versus what it's seeing from the cell phone provider.
Okay. I'm going to show you, it's in evidence as State's Exhibit 204. 204 is... It's not ID only. It was introduced yesterday.
This is actually true. Roxanne is not lying. The judge said you could stand up, but he didn't say you could talk. Nancy Grace is back there a few rows. I think she's about 5 rows back near the aisle, one seat in off the aisle. She can't see her right now. Looks like she stepped out. Nope. Is that her in the black coat that just sat down? Can't see that far.
Please court. All right, I'm going to show you this is in evidence at State's Exhibit 204. And I'm going to ask you if you recognize that, sir.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. And what is that item?
This is an iPhone that we received in case 7021-0204. It was item 1 that, after being processed, belonged to Maggie Murdaugh.
Okay. And you received that phone. Do you recall when you received that phone?
I would have to check my notes on the actual date. It was in June, I believe it was June of 2021. I received the phone from our evidence intake at SLED.
Okay. And
awesome. Maybe we'll have something tonight.
What did you do when you first received the phone and you went to examine it?
When I received the phone, I returned to our unit where our evidence vault is held. I logged the item in to evidence. One of the processes we have when we log items in is we take photos of the item as it comes in. If it's got a cracked screen to it, we'll photograph that. If it doesn't have it, we'll photograph that. Once the item then is photographed, we'll go through, we'll process the phone as far as for evidence, where we'll go in, we'll look at the phone, we'll pull the SIM card out if it hadn't been pulled out, we'll check the IMEI number, we'll log it into our system, we'll place stickers on the phone and on the bag itself. Once that's done, then we'll take it to our evidence vault and sign it into a shelf on our evidence vault.
Okay.
Hey, Debbie, she was here this morning. Still not feeling good.
As State's Exhibit 277. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, sir. This is a photo I took when I examined this item.
All right. And that item being?
Item 1, the iPhone belonging to Maggie Murdaugh.
And at this time, State will move to introduce Exhibit 277 to evidence.
No objection. Admitted.
And I'm going to show this. Are we up on the Elmo?
We are.
Elmo's getting a workout today.
Okay, what is this picture of? What do we see on this picture?
This is a picture of her settings on her iPhone. I opened the settings. I went in and pulled up. It shows the name of Maggie Murdaugh has been entered as a name for the phone. It also shows that the phone has been placed in airplane mode, that the Wi-Fi connection is off, Bluetooth connection's on, cell connection is placed in airplane mode.
Okay. So this is a picture you took, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And did you alter any of these settings yourself?
No,
when
sir.
you access this phone?
No, sir, I did not.
And we see the phone's in airplane mode, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that the condition you received the phone?
Yes, sir, it is.
And do you recall if it was powered off when you received it?
It was powered on when I received it.
But it was in airplane mode, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 276. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
And is that a picture you took?
Yes, sir, it is. It's one I took during our examination of the phone.
All right. And that's, again, Maggie's phone?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And at this time, State would move to introduce State's Exhibit 276 in evidence.
No objection.
Bid without objection.
All right. And real briefly, what is that picture of?
This is a picture of one of the screens on the phone that show the different apps on there. It also shows on there that there has been notifications received to those apps, such as CVS Pharmacy. It shows the little number 1 there, that has been received a notification to that app.
All right. And when you see a notification like that, what does that mean to you? What does that tell you?
That they have been, one, that they have their notifications turned on. Because if you go through and set your apps not to notify you, then you won't receive them or see them. That a notification's been turned on for that CVS app, for instance, and that she has received a notification on there.
All right. I'm going to show you, it's been marked as State's Exhibit 275. And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This is the location service from Maggie Murdaugh's phone. During my examination, I pulled this up, and it shows whether apps and different things, if one, location service was turned on, but then 2, if it was always running, if it was only while the app was being used, or it was set to never.
And at this time, State would move to introduce Exhibit 275 in evidence.
Objection.
Bid without objection.
Okay, can you read that, Lieutenant Dove, on the screen?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right. And at the top, what is that? What do we see there?
At the top of it, on the left-hand side, you see the time of 12:30 with a little triangle next to it for location services. Then on the right-hand side, you see the little airplane to indicate the phone's in airplane mode. Then you see the battery, and it's hard to tell on the screen, but I believe it's yellow. It looks like on there that it's a low battery. Then it's the location services. It shows that location services are turned on. Then it goes down through several different apps, not all of them, but then shows like AccuWeather is set to never record locations. You got Amazon, Alexa, that's always, the App Store only while using the app, the Apple Store while using the app, Apple Watch faces while using, Apple Watch workout while using, and BCBS toolkit while using.
Okay. So these are user settings that presumably the owner of the phone would have set, correct?
Yes, sir. Majority of the time when you add a new app to your phone, it asks you, do you want to allow location services? Do you want to allow it all the times, only while using the app, or never? You can also go into your own settings and change those location services.
Okay. And for most of these apps we see on here, it seems to say that location services only be used while using. What does while using mean?
It indicates when you pull the app up and the app is in use, that's when it's recording the location that you're at. Whether it's running in the background or you pull it up and then close it completely out.
So if no one is actively using a particular app, the phone's not going to record location data, correct?
Correct, for that app, yes, sir.
For those settings where it says while using, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to approach and show you Exhibit 278. You recognize that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what is that?
This is a picture of Maggie Murdaugh's phone I took while I was doing the examination of it, and it shows the recent call log.
At this time, I would move to introduce State Exhibit 278.
Submit it.
And this is the recent call log from Maggie Murdaugh's phone, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
And we see some entries that are red and some are black. What does that mean?
The red entries on there indicate missed calls, calls that have been received by the phone but were not answered.
And we see the word Alex followed by a numeral 5. What does that mean?
That would indicate the phone is recorded that there were 5 missed calls from the person identified as Alex in that contact list.
And in addition, we see a missed call from Buster, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
And 2 missed calls from John Marvin, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And can we see the times or dates on this screen right now?
It shows the date on there as far as the day of the week. It does not show the calendar date or the times.
Okay. And finally, I'm going to show you Exhibit 279. Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This is a photo of Maggie Murdaugh's phone. When I was doing the examination, one of the other things I did was open the messages to look at it and take a photo of that.
And that's a picture you took, correct?
Yes, sir, I took that photo.
And so at this time, State would move to introduce State's Exhibit 279 into evidence.
No, sir.
Submit it.
All right. And this is those recent messages for Maggie, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And what types of messages would show up in this inbox?
In this inbox, you would receive SMS messages, a regular text message, and also MMS messages, which ones may also have a photo attached to them, would show up.
Okay. All right. And I see to the left of most of these a dot. What does that dot indicate?
That dot indicates messages that have not been read or opened.
Okay.
I have a lot of those. Not on the burner phone, but like emails.
Okay.
32,601 emails have not been
So
read.
after you took those processing pictures of Maggie's phone, what did you do?
I continued to process the phone. I took the gray key extraction I did with the phone. I ran it through Celebrite Physical Analyzer, went through it, looked for information relevant that may help the investigators, also to see what kind of things were going on the day of June 7th, 2021. And then from there, after I finished that one, that's when I ran the extraction through Axon to try to see if I could validate what I was seeing.
Okay. And you mentioned it, but this was a full physical extraction on Maggie's phone?
It was a full file system extraction.
Okay, full file system. Okay.
Got 9 different email
And you
accounts, though.
processed it in Cellbrite?
So they're all for different
Yes,
reasons.
sir.
Burner
And
emails,
Cellbrite
everything.
produce a full file system report?
Yes, sir, it will.
All right. And explain to the jury what that is and what it does.
A full file system report from Celebrite is going to have everything that it can decode and then put in a readable format for you. It's going to give you things like your health database stuff, like to show you your steps that you're taking, your calls that you've made or missed or received, your emails, your text messages. It's going to tell you if you connected to a Bluetooth device. It's going to tell you if you went and were in a certain area, you have geolocation information, such as GPS information. It's also going to tell you if you have mobile payments in there, where you can look and see what cards you had in your mobile payments. Just to name a few, it will pull thousands of pages of information if you ran a full one and pulled it. It'll also give you the configurations of apps. Also give you the databases too in that report.
Okay. And you just mentioned it, but a full Cellbrite report is rather large, correct?
Yes, sir. Depending on the size of the phone and how much information is on the phone, I have seen them run over 148 gigs in size for one report.
What is a gig?
A gig is a measurement that is used for data. Most phones nowadays, when you get them, are going to go 64 gigs. It's your smaller end, and they go up from there to 128 or 256 or even a terabyte now. It's how much data it'll hold.
And phones, let's say just new models the phones that Apple's selling, what's a common size that's sold by Apple today?
Most of the time, people will acquire a 126 or 128 gig size. Then the next size up is the 256.
This full-size Cellbrite report that you produced for Maggie's phone, do you recall how large it is?
No, sir, not the full file system, I don't.
All right, but it's large, correct?
Yes, sir. It's, if I remember correctly, it's probably about 68 gigs in total size.
And if you wanted to print everything in that report, could you approximate how many pages it would take?
No, sir. I would be venturing to guess. Looking at the timeline, for instance, in a report like that, you're probably talking about 9,000 pages just for the timeline section of that report.
All right, I'm going to show you a box. I think the marker's on the inside, so you might need to open it up, but it's State's Exhibit 280. You can open it up and take a look at it. And what is the contents of that box, sir?
The contents of this box is a portable, solid-state external hard drive.
Okay. And is that something you've had access to before?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do with that external hard drive?
On this external hard drive, I provided a copy of the file system report from Cellbrite. I placed it on this hard drive.
And for whose phone?
This is for Maggie Murdaugh's phone.
And you estimated it was in the neighborhood of about 60 gigabytes, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Plus or minus?
Yes, sir. It could be probably plus that.
Right. And that represents the full file system that you pulled off of Maggie's phone, is that correct?
Yes, sir, in a report format.
And the phone's in evidence sitting right there in front of you. Is there any significant difference in the data that's contained on that phone and contained on that hard drive, other than the ability to access it?
That's the only difference.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, at this time, State would move to introduce State's Exhibit 280 into evidence.
Objection. It's admitted.
All right, Lieutenant Dove, we just talked about if we printed all that, it would be thousands of pages, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so for today, you've printed shorter reports that we can look at and discuss for Maggie's phone, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
But those reports are pulled from that full Cellbrite report on that hard drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to show you something that's marked as State's Exhibit 281. Take a look at that, sir. And do you recognize that?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This is a report, a Cellbrite report from Maggie Murdaugh's phone that was pulled just for call logs with a filter established for just June 5th, 2021 to June 7th, 2021 as parameters for this phone.
And so those are call logs that were stored on Maggie's phone, is that correct?
Yes, sir, they were.
And explain to the jury real quick, they heard from a Verizon representative this morning, what's the difference between call logs stored on that phone and call logs that might be stored by a company like Verizon?
When call logs are stored on the phone, one of the things On this report, for instance, it'll have network unknown. It's not pulling network information, so it doesn't matter whether you're using T-Mobile or Verizon for your phone. It's still going to pull the call logs. Even if you were to go and switch carriers from Verizon to T-Mobile, it would still pull the call logs from the database. One of the other things it'll do is it'll record times that the phone's receiving the call along with the amount of time that you spend on the call. It'll show if it was answered or missed on there.
Okay.
Conrad, we're going to take a break.
Yes, sir.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll go to the jury room, we'll take a 15-minute break.
Uh-oh, judge needs a break. Let's give him just a second to get out here. Trying to find a better box for you, a better view that shows more. I mean, I could do something like this. We're just bringing a bunch of different stuff, but okay. So it's break time. We need to update everybody where we're at. We need that one there. Okay, we'll go here. All right. Okay, so it looks like Jensen trial. Are we? Did I hear we're in verdict watch on Jensen trial? So maybe this evening, maybe tomorrow, we might get a verdict on that one. Closing arguments are finished in Mark Jensen trial. Jury starting deliberations. We'll keep you posted. Thank you, Joan. Appreciate that. I know we've got a couple people over there that are keeping an eye on that. Kathy as well. I heard it was still spicy all the way through closing arguments, so I'm glad we stayed here. We might go back over for the verdict, though, if it happens after this trial ends. Or we might go back and watch it if it happens at the end of the day. Does anyone know when we're getting the spicy Snapchat info? I mean, I'm going to keep watching, but I want to make sure my brain is awake for that. Olivia, we're getting close to it. Here's what I think. The state is following a logical pattern as they're developing this stuff. They're basically saying, here was the on scene, here's the call, the 911 call, here's the first responder on the scene, here's the next person that came up that started identifying evidence, here's the SLED team, and they're working their way through consecutively like that. Now that they've got to the cell phones, they're starting to show the different people that were involved in the cell phone recovering the data. And so we're very close to the point where they're saying, here's the data we found, and this is what the significance is. So I think we're very close to getting the Snapchat info. If not today, I think it would be tomorrow for sure. Is that the whole property outline? Bill, yes, it is. Let me bring it back on the screen if you didn't see that. Just 1 second here. I need that on 3 right here. Okay, so this is their property that was for sale. I think they have another one because they referred to this as the hunting lodge sometimes. I'm not sure if this was like their only residence as well, but this was the hunting lodge. And if we zoom in here just a little bit, I'll zoom in and show you what happened here. This is about 1,700 acres roughly. If we zoom in nice and tight and peek around here, let's see where we're at. Down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so this red roof building, and right in here, these are the dog kennels right there. The house is way up here, and the Maggie's cell phone was found down here in the trees on the side of the road. So that's the space. I think the shooting range, I'm not sure if the shooting range is back here. It was across the street from the house, so I think it's over here. So they shot along this run or they shot back here in this opening. But that's where the shooting range was, or possibly. Let's see if it's this one here. See if we can get a better view here. That's about as good as we get, huh? That's not very clear. Anyway, they had a shooting range across the street. That's where they got a lot of the ammunition from. And this would explain all this heavy treat area. This is like hog heaven. They're going to love this. This is plenty of cover for them. They would be in there most of the time during the day, and then at night they'd probably come out and like attack the fields, the food plots that were planted for the different species that they wanted on their hunting preserve. Let's see. Closing by the defense was a sleeper. I've heard that I was supposed to put music to the closing on the defense today on that trial. This is a full gallery. Any reason why? Bitfinex. I think that originally they expected to have a lot more people in, like locals interested in this trial. And when it turns out they weren't, they just opened it up for more reporters. So I think we've got more reporters there than local citizens. Even though the citizens are the ones paying the tax dollars that are making it possible for this trial to go forward, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of local interest on that front. We've had several days where the courtroom was pretty much half empty, especially at the beginning. So more people there now as it starts getting a little more interesting. Let's see. I want to see his phone, probably a flipper. I think it was an iPhone. We're talking about Paul and Maggie. I think they both had iPhones. Maggie was living at their beach house. I heard they were, yesterday I learned from you guys that apparently they were probably working towards a divorce or separation of some sort. Don't think I've ever seen a prosecution present their digital evidence worse. It wasn't the witness's fault. It was the prosecutor's style or the lack thereof. It definitely isn't clear for the jury yet. They haven't connected the dots. I hope they do. Hopefully, I think they shouldn't wait until the closing arguments to try to do that because the jury is making up their mind right now. So I definitely, if you've got something that makes sense and you can, 1 + 1 = 2 right now, I would spell it out for the jury. Let's see. Here's a story of a Murdaugh mystery to the tune of Brady Bunch. Can totally hear it now. Yep. Is the courtroom one single room that really leads outside? Isabel, I think it is. If you look, when they show the back of the courtroom next time, you'll notice that the glass around the rear doors has opaque paper just taped up over it. To prevent sunlight in. It probably is also a security measure because this is a high-profile case. It's sort of like a sniper threat if you have like a clear window into a courtroom where a lot of people are, a lot of big names. You don't want a clear view of that. That would be not safe. So they've covered up those windows. I think it does go straight outdoors, and for the same reason, those doors are blocked off. So you can't go in that way. So you can't see straight into court and see the the people up on either prosecution or the witness or the defense or anything. They have to come in the side doors. Let's see. Double stairs lead from there to the sidewalk. We've seen a couple of the commentators who are down there broadcasting from outside the front of the courthouse, so that makes sense. It's huge. They had a beach place. Was it just the beach place and the hunting lodge, or was there another home as well? Line upon the river, along the river is probably the high water mark they would have to roam all the way to the river. I don't think he wanted to parcel off the land. I think he wanted, I think he stole money so that he could buy the land. He would probably want more, not to sell it, but he didn't want to lose what he had acquired through his endeavors financially. Can't wait for Maggie's friends to testify as well. One friend said she was leaving him and she feared him, and he asked for her to meet up with him. Hey, let it be summer. Good to have you here. Yeah, we're enjoying this trial. It's starting to get a little bit more action. So, Alex said they had a great marriage. Yeah, but he also said they had a great relationship with his son, and that may or may not be the case. Nobody was in the courtroom for Jensen. Zero, zilch, nada. I can't explain to the jury why Alex Murdaugh is guilty at this point, because I have not had it explained to me why he's guilty. We only have circumstantial evidence so far, and even that is thin. The fact that he has guns and guns were used in the murder, is not enough to draw a connection for me. Here, let me show you this. This is I think this is the courthouse steps out there in back of the Law and Crime right there. Is that Maggie? Yeah, or, sorry, that's Annette. I was thinking Maggie. That's Annette Levy. Anyway, she's outside the courtroom right now. Let's see. Michelle Johnson says, recovery addict, was it a reasonable cost for equipment to start one's own YouTube channel? Yes, you can actually start for very little money, especially if you already have a smartphone, because that's all you need. And if you're thinking about doing it, the advice I'd give you is start before you're ready. Don't wait till you have everything in order and you're practiced and it's perfect. I would just start now and then build it slowly as you go. I happen to have had about $10,000 worth of equipment from some of my other business ventures that I've done over the years, some of the schooling that I've been involved with, some of the work that I've been involved with, and I put those pieces together, and it happens to make a great little studio. But I would not have been able to just buy this and start a YouTube channel. I'm not in that state financially. But you can start with very little stuff. Very little. A smartphone the cameras are great, and they're enough. The first upgrade I would do, though, is definitely on audio. Audio is a deal breaker, I think. What did he steal and how? High-speed drifter. He's charged. I wouldn't say he stole, but he's charged with about 106 financial crimes, embezzlement. He's disbarred now as an attorney because he stole some money from his firm, and they caught him. He's been sued successfully for stealing money from clients. So there's a whole long list of charges. But has Randy Murdaugh testified yet, or the EMS? No. Anyone from the hospital? No. If not all of them are on the state's witness list, yeah, there's a ton on the list. We've pretty much just had people who were, let's see, mostly it was going to be evidence collection. The first responders on the scene, evidence collection there, all the way up through the Secret Service who cracked the phone, who are looking at their, the phone information. We had, the closest we had from family was the second cousin who built the 300 blackout firearms for him. He's also a wildlife officer. But that's about it. We haven't had any of the real other family connections testify. Appreciate the advice. Yeah, if you ever need advice, shoot me up on the message on the burner phone. I'd be happy to talk to you if you have any questions. I'd encourage anyone to do this if they have that interest. He inherited the property, and she had money too. More likely, the property's in a family office trust. That's just so it can't. Well, if it's in a family office trust, it just got sold, Ann. It's up for sale. That's this listing right here. This is actually the under contract. This is a property. This is the realty office that's selling that land, Crosby Land Company. Currently under contract. So somebody put an offer in, $3.9 million for 1,772 acres of land. So it wasn't kept there indefinitely. Maybe they had the right to sell. Has there been any word if the jurors will go on a field trip to see the site of the murders? All I know, Denise, is that the opening statements in the beginning, I think the defense mentioned that in the opening statement, that they'd like the jurors to go out and see the property. The two-shooter in the grassy knoll theory from yesterday was special. It was. I hope it never comes up again, Richard. It's with stippling on both victims, it just seems absurd to go that. To say, oh yeah, there was one shot fired from 500 yards away, and then he came up and one more was fired from point blank, same gun. That doesn't add up in my book. The Murdaugh Murder podcast give great insight. Yes, if you've got some time, search Murdaugh Murder podcasts on YouTube. They've been studying this for about 3 years. This case, it's a podcast just about this case. They have a lot of in-depth information. His poor character will influence the jury. Yes. And yes, it's Dick's honor to represent Mr. Murdaugh. That was also in the opening statements. Cake Star, you did not miss the Snapchat yet. We're hoping it comes this afternoon. Little Miss, I think Amber sent me the witness list. There are like 255 people on it. I don't have it in front of me right now. It's somewhere on the burner phone. CG, yes, you should start now. If you got stuff to say, do start. And if seriously, honestly, if there's any way I could help you guys or encourage you or answer some questions, if this is something you want to do, I'd love to do it. If I met you in person, I'd do the same thing. I've already had 3 or 4 people reach out to me about it, and I've given it advice and encouragement that I can. I'd do the same. Let's see. I have to listen to the podcast. They're good, especially the jail calls were really insightful for me, just to get into the mind of Alec just a little bit. St. Patty's Day is the earliest. That's March 14th, right? It's getting close to my birthday. Just saying. So where do they go eat lunch? Do they sit in a circle and eat their sandwiches? Concerned about lunch. Maybe I'm hungry. Isabel, they actually, this is a big thing for the small town. And having all these people in here in the news media, the local food trucks saw this as it's basically like a festival type setting. So they set up all the food trucks outside around the courthouse, and they've got all sorts of options there around the courthouse with those food trucks. Hopefully it's all great food and no food poisoning. Not ready to give a guilty verdict, but I am ready to give him 5 years for crappy hair. He's growing it back from a complete shave. He bicked it earlier, Ed, probably, a month or 2 ago. It was shiny smooth, and so he's just barely getting it back. So you got to give him a little credit. It takes some time to grow the hair back. I'm not sure if he stole the money to purchase the land. I know that he stole money and used it. Like, the money's gone, and he was acquiring things. So I'm not sure if this land was one of the things or not. There's a bunch of SLED officers incoming too. I imagine there was a ton on the scene. He has enough financial crimes to give him life in prison anyway. Back to back, he could spend a lot of time locked up. But then those, I don't know. It depends what the sentence is, really. I don't know if the sentence is going to be as strict as a murder charge sentence. And so the opportunity to get out on parole is probably much higher on those. He's already been found guilty for stealing, but the defense attorney, it's an honor to defend him. Yeah, question the state senator's ethical compass. It's a little different. They're friends, though. They go way back. If the judge doesn't allow in all the other stuff, in debt, embezzlement, misappropriation of funds, hired hitman with bad aim, etc., Alex may scoot. He may still, CG. I think it's hard to overstate the difficulty that the state has in front of them, because we don't know of any smoking gun, of anything that really pins Alec to this crime, other than that he found them and he has guns. So unless there's some DNA evidence that really, is really hard to explain any other way, the state's got their task cut out for them. Watching for the court to make sure nothing's happened. The audio's on. I'll hear it as soon as it comes back. It's a very pretty property. Very nice. It does get a little hot down there. A little hot and humid in South Carolina. I knew that, Ivan. I can tell you I knew that, but I said 314 for some reason, and I was completely wrong. I know that because I know exactly how far away it is from my birthday. I know so many people born on St. Patty's Day. It's a good day. He's probably having to sell his assets to repay some of the money. Yeah, I don't think he has much left. I really don't. Let's see. Lindsay, let's see what you just sent me here. On the burner phone. It's big, whatever it is. It doesn't want to open. Give me a second. Yeah, it's Wild History of Acquiring the Moselle Property. I'll check that article. For anyone wondering, Recover Addict is just as friendly and encouraging off-air as it is on the air when it comes to working on your YouTube side hustle. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Thank you, Matthew Harris. I appreciate that. Love having the recommendation. Looks like we're getting some... Oh, the judge has his drink back. He's good. Maybe that's his cup of ice. I think he brings a cup of ice with him.
You may now be seated.
If you'll bring the jury, please.
Christy Brown, good to have you here. This is a fun group to be part of. Please hit the subscribe button and come back. I say that like you have a choice, but really once you're here, we don't let you leave. So I'm glad you're here, Christy. Hope you enjoy it. No. Richard, you do great. I appreciate talking to you. Oh, there's that. I heard that. I heard the high-pitched squeal that time. Was that what you guys are hearing before? Not sure what's going on with the audio. This is awful.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Judge Dawes, I believe we were discussing State's Exhibit 281.
Yeah, I can do that, Adam. Give me a minute to get a couple things ready for that.
And what was that again?
This is a Celebrate report from Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone extraction. It has just call logs for the date range of 6/5/2021 to 6/7/2021.
Okay. And I believe you said it contains information, the date and time the call was made, correct?
Yes, sir, it does.
Whether it was an outgoing or ingoing call, correct?
Yes, sir.
And whether a call was answered or not, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And at this time, State will move to introduce State's Exhibit 281 use of evidence.
Okay. Submit it.
All right, Lieutenant, this report is 20 pages long, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're not going to go through line by line every call, but I'm going to focus on, can I have the Elmo, please? Okay. Let's take a look at Maggie's call log from the night of June 7th. Can you read that from your screen up there, sir?
Yes, sir. I can read down to item 8 on that.
Okay. And actually, we're going to go back a little bit more in time. And let's look at line 14 on this report. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right. And first of all, when I say line 14, what am I referring to on there?
On the left-hand side of the picture, there's a column, and when you build a report, it adds the numbers just to make it easier to keep track of in that report. If you added this report with another piece of item, whether it's text messaging or voicemails, it would change the numbers.
Okay. And on line 14, what is that data entry? What does that represent?
It represents a call that was outgoing on this phone.
All right. And we see a number. Don't read the number, but we see a number and a name below it in the second column there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And what's that name?
Barbara.
Okay. And did you say that this is an outgoing call or an ingoing call?
It shows the direction as an outgoing call.
Okay. Now, I look at line 13, and I see another entry that says Barbara. What is that?
That is the same call. It's entered in 2 different databases, and it pulls from both databases because it's both call logs.
All right. And so there's 2 databases for call logs on Maggie's phone? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And just briefly, what does that mean? There's 2 different logs.
There's several different SQLite databases in a phone, and it's going to contain the information in different places. One may be recent calls. One may be calls that are considered past the recent step that's set in the database, so that it's going to be in the call logs, but it's not going to be in the recent. Sometimes you'll see them in both databases, recent and the call logs.
Okay. All right, and so that, what time is that call that you see on the entry there, lines 13 and line 14?
At line 13, it's on 6/7/2021 at 7:50, 19 seconds PM -4 UTC.
Okay, so that's 7:50 PM Eastern Time, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And in the next column, we see a number, and it says 2:46. What does that mean?
That is the duration of the call.
Okay. So at 7:50 PM, Maggie placed a call to Barbara. Is that correct? That lasted 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And we see a slight time difference between line 13 and line 14. It's about 4 seconds. And that's just simply the different way the different logs record the data.
Yes, sir, it's because they're going into different databases, so there is a lag in that.
But your testimony today is, what is the exact time that call was placed to Barbara?
That call was placed to Barbara at 6/7/2021 at 7:50, 19 PM.
Okay. In your review of Maggie's call logs, was this the last answer, or excuse me, the last phone call that was either dialed or answered by someone on Maggie's phone?
I would have to check the logs again, but I believe so.
I'll let you have that. Take a look.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's the last answered call or one that was shown in the direction of outgoing.
All right. No more outgoing calls that night, correct?
No, sir,
June 7th?
correct.
And no more answered calls the night of June 7th, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, we're going to look at lines 9 and 10. I don't know if you can see that on your... I got it reversed, my bad. There we go. Okay, let's look at lines 9. I can't quite see the line. You can see line 10, correct?
Yes, sir, I can.
And there's a staple there, but above that should be line 9, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm going to try to show you the graphic
Lines 11 and 12, correct?
while they're talking.
Yes, sir, we do.
Not what they're showing right now, but from the actual
What
the
do
scene, the
lines
diagram.
11 and
Just 1
12
second
show?
here.
They show that the phone from Maggie Murdaugh received a phone call from 1-803-942-1227. On line 11, it has the name Alex associated with it. Shows the direction as incoming.
And was that call answered?
No, sir.
Okay. And again, we see 2 line entries for the same call. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
However, there's a difference. One line, line 11 says Alex, and line 12 says PA. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
This is a view of
Same number,
the crime
right?
scene.
Yes, sir, they are.
I know it's hard to read, but you can see the
Again,
bodies.
briefly explain why we see a Alex and a PA between those 2 lines.
Because they're 2 separate databases that these are entered into. And when you set up your contact list, you can go through and if you wanted to set a name for either a spouse, a child, or a good friend, you can set it how you want it to be. And that's going to show up from the contact side of it.
Okay. But it's the same call, correct?
Yes, sir, it's the same call, same phone number that it was received from.
Okay, let's look at line 10 and 9 directly above that. Again, the 9 is slightly obscured. But what do we see there? What activity do those 2 lines represent?
Those 2 lines show calls from 1-803-942-1227. Line 10 has it as PA. Direction shows an incoming call, and it shows it as a missed call.
Okay. And again, it's Alex and PA, but it's the same number ending in 1227, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
And you've had an opportunity to examine a phone associated with 1227, correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
And whose phone is that?
That was Alex Murdaugh's.
And again, that time is what?
Hold on. We can't hear anything because the fire truck's just launched. Thank you, Lindsay. This is the diagram from Agent Worley.
All right, and the two times you see in line 10 and 9, can you read those times in those two blocks? And are they the same?
Yes, sir, they are the same. It is 6/7/2021 at 9:06:14 p.m. UTC -4.
Okay. And that's local time, 9:06, correct?
Yes, sir, that's local time.
And 14 seconds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, all right. And let's read the times for line 1112. That's the first call from Alex. What are the times for the call that's associated with lines 11 and 12?
They are the same time. It is 6/7/2021 at 9:04:23 p.m. UTC -4.
All right, we're going to talk about a few more lines here. Let's talk about lines 7 and 8 on this report. I mean, what does this information show?
It shows a phone call of 1-803-942-1227. On line 7, it has the name of Alex. Direction shows incoming. And it shows that it was a missed call received on 6/7/2021 at 9:06:51 p.m. UTC -4.
All right. And again, those are two lines associated with the same call, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so just reviewing, within the space of about 2 minutes, you see 3 separate calls from Alex's phone incoming into Maggie's phone. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And after that 9:06:51 call on line 7 and 8, what's the next call you see on this log?
Moving up the call log, the next call I see is from 1-803-942-1227. On line 5, it has the name of Alex. The time received on that call is at 9:45:32 p.m. UTC -4.
And that's lines 5 and 6, correct?
Yes, sir.
For the same call, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And finally, let's talk about lines 3 and 4. What information do you see there?
On lines 3 and 4, they're the same call from 1-803-942-1227. On line 4, it shows it as PA. Direction is an incoming call. And it was received at 10:03:58 p.m. UTC -4 as a missed call.
All right. And to clarify, these last 5 calls from Alex, were any of them answered?
No, sir.
And previously, we looked at when you took pictures of Maggie's phone, you took a picture of her call log, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
Right.
Thank you for the information,
again,
Lindsay.
I'm going to put it up on.
Appreciate you digging that up for us.
Exhibit 278. And we saw that numeral 5 next to Alex's name, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And that represents 5 missed calls.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And I don't know if you're doing math while we went through that, and we can look at it again if you'd like, Lieutenant Dove, but did you count the calls from Alex that were missed in a row as we went through that call log?
Yes, sir, I came up with 5.
Okay. And since I had that picture up there, when you access Maggie's phone to take these pictures and to go through some of these screens, did you change any settings?
No, sir. The extraction had already been done at the point I took these photos.
Okay, so the extraction actually was done before these pictures?
Yes, sir.
All right. But even after, did you change any settings or open up any calls to make anything difference on the phone?
No, sir, I did not.
And just looking at Maggie's call log on the phone itself again, this is still 278. We talked about calls with Barbara that were 7:50 p.m. on the call log, correct?
Yes, sir.
And looking at this screen, we see a call before that, before Barbara, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And who is that name on that call?
Mary Ann?
Okay. And was that a completed call?
Yes, sir. It shows as a completed call, not a missed call.
Okay. And can you look at the screen, and maybe you can't, can you tell from this screen itself whether it was an incoming or outgoing call?
No, sir. I cannot tell for sure from the screen.
If we looked at it on the call log we just talked about on Exhibit 281, you'd be able to tell that information, though, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Alex is pretty chatty with his lawyers today. He's been very interested in a lot of the data that comes up on the screen. I think he's a data guy.
So let's move on. Let's talk about Maggie's text message report. I'm going to show you something that's marked as Exhibit 282. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This is a Celebrate report I produced from Maggie Murdaugh's phone that has text messages with a report filter that was set from June 7th, 2021 to June 7th, 2021 for just a 1 day's worth of text messaging.
And what kind of information does that report have on it?
General information it has on the beginning of the report is going to have information about the device as far as the Apple ID and what the name is that's associated with the phone, the type of phone, just general data as far as device information. On the other pages, you'll see text messaging that's on the phone, who they were from, the text message, the dates, and it'll also show the status if it was read or an unread message.
And when you look to see if it was read or unread, if a message had been read, would the phone record that time and date the message was read?
Yes, sir, it does.
At this point, the state's going to move to introduce State's Exhibit 282.
Submitted.
Thank you. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about how the text messages are organized in this report. Is it strictly chronological through?
No, sir, not always. Sometimes they can get a little out of order, depending on when the text messaging and the filters you set on the report.
Okay, and how did you set that up on this report? I can get back to you to look at.
So Buster gets $500,000 from the sale of the property. The chunk goes to the boat crash victims.
On this report, it appears to have pulled chronologically, but it's also pulling instant messages versus chat messages, and they are coming from different databases.
Okay. So if it came from a different database, it's separate, but all the SMSs should be in chronological order, correct?
Yes, sir.
So let's look at a few texts here.
Thanks, Lindsay, for that information. Appreciate that. Yeah, he gets, 12.5%? Is that just doing the math in my head, roughly? It is a chunk of money, but it's a very small percentage of property that the family owns. So there's a lot going somewhere else.
Okay. This is page 31 of this report. All right. Can you read that at the bottom then? Is that readable?
Just part of the bottom is readable.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Okay. And what is this?
This is appears to be a group text message that was received on this phone from one individual to several other individuals.
Let's not read numbers, but there's most of these have names next to them. So who sent this message?
It appears, it has it down as John Marvin.
Okay. And who else is in this text group?
Maggie Murdaugh appears in this, but it has her user account name, which is a Yahoo email address.
Okay.
It has Alex, Christy, Lynn, Alan, Liz, and it has one phone number that does not have a name associated with it.
Okay.
Dang Android users.
What time did this text message arrive on Maggie's phone?
It appears that the text message was received 6/7/2021 at 8:31 p.m. UTC -4.
I think without defense objection, the state's going to move to seal this as per the evidence per the previous protocol.
Your Honor, and I understand that's to protect the phone numbers and email addresses of the other folks on here. We have no objection.
Is that correct?
No objection to sealing the phone numbers, Your Honor.
Okay.
Who's the third party?
Now look, real quick, again, what time did that text arrive on Maggie's phone?
It shows at the bottom of it at 6/7/2021 at 8:31 p.m. UTC -4.
Okay. And was that text message read?
Yes, it shows it as read.
Okay. And what time was it read?
It shows it as read on 6/7/2021 at 8:31:16 p.m. UTC -4.
So about 16 seconds later. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you read this text message, please?
Yes, sir. It says, I plan to go over to visit Dad tomorrow afternoon. Is anyone else planning to go?
All right. And that's from John Marvin, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're not going to go back and look at the previous text in this thread, but what is the general topic that they're discussing, just for context for the jury?
It appears that they are talking about going to visit Dad tomorrow and trying to find out if anybody else plans to go over with them at any time.
And this is a response to a series of texts about Randolph, Alex's dad, and his health, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to turn over to page 32, and we see another text. And this is that same text group, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And this is another text that arrived on Maggie's phone, correct?
Yes, sir, it did.
Who sent that text?
It looks like Lynn G.
All right. And what does it say?
It says, I'm in court all week with an emoji.
Okay. All right. Was this text read?
Yes, sir. It shows it as read at 8:49:27 p.m. UTC -4 on 6/7/2021.
Okay. I'm going to hand this report back to you. Have you help me find. I believe Maggie receives a text later, and it might be from Rogan. Could you find that text in there for me, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've located it.
Okay. What time did that text arrive on her phone?
That text arrived on 6/7/2021 at 9:34:14 p.m. UTC -4.
Let me see.
9:34 p.m. I wonder if this one's read.
All right. And that text is from who?
That text, it says it's from Rogan.
And that's at least what the call or the apps, or excuse me, the contact list says.
Yes, sir. That's the name that was entered in the contact list associated with that phone number.
And that arrived on Maggie's phone when?
On 6/7/2021 at 9:34:14 p.m. UTC -4.
And was that?
What's that? Are you nervous?
No, sir. It appears as a status of unread.
Okay, so this is
Now,
trying to
let's
establish
be clear about something, Lieutenant Doug.
approximate time of death.
You know, when we say a text is read or a call was answered, can you know for certain from your forensic analysis of who the actual person was who answered a call or made a call or read a text?
No, sir. I cannot tell you who did it. I can tell you that the phone has the information. The phone recorded certain information, but I can't tell you who's actually touching the screen or pushing the buttons on it.
Okay. But in order to place a call or to place a text or to read a text, what condition has to be satisfied?
What'd you touch? Quit wiggling the cables, man. There we go.
All right, we'll continue for now. Where was I? What condition has to be satisfied in order for someone to make a call on a phone?
Unless you're making an emergency call, like a 911 call, you would need to know the passcode to be able to unlock the phone to get to the contact list or either to the number pad to dial the number.
All right, so you need to know the passcode, correct?
Yes, sir.
To unlock the phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And are there other ways to lock these phones or unlock these phones?
There's also, too, with iPhones, which this one was, there's the biometric way of doing it. If you set a face unlock, where instead of having to enter your passcode every time, you can look at it, the camera will activate, and then it'll unlock via your face.
That's how mine works.
All right.
I think he said he did know her passcode. Didn't he provide it for them?
I'm going to show you, I believe there's some texts from Alex that Maggie received that night. Can you find those in that report, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I found the text thread.
Okay. All right.
What's the beginning?
All right, let's look at page 16. And can you read that, sir?
Are you referring to the bottom text on that one?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. All right, and who's that text from?
It's from Alex.
All right, and it was sent to Maggie's phone, correct?
Yes, sir, it was.
At what time did that arrive on Maggie's phone?
It shows 6/7/2021 at 9:08:58 p.m. UTC -4.
Okay. And was that text ever read?
No, sir. It shows the status is unread.
All right. And I can hand you back the report if you need to refer to it again. But we previously discussed a text at 8:49 and 27 that from Lynn G, I believe, that was read, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there any texts that arrived on Maggie's phone after that time that were read?
No, sir, there was not.
Okay. And I'm going to hand you, it's been marked as State's Exhibit 282. And I'm going to ask if you recognize that, sir.
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This is a Celebrite report that I produced from Maggie Murdaugh's phone. It has on there device events from her phone with a date range filter placed on it for the day of 6/7/2021.
Okay. All right. And what kind of information is contained in that report?
In this report, it's going to have different information in there as far as activity. It'll have location information in there. It'll also have whether the phone was unlocked, if it was locked, if there's orientation changes. It'll also pull if it was plugged in, whether to a car or to the wall to charge.
And these are all, most of this is information that's stored in those databases we discussed previously, correct?
Yes, sir. Most of this information is in the Knowledge C database.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of that. We've seen the map of how it was found just off the road, a ways away, just off the property boundaries. This will be interesting to see if they can pinpoint that her phone was opened or messed with, but the messages weren't read.
Late court's indulgence. And how many pages is this report?
I don't remember offhand. I think it could be 87. I can't remember if that's the 87-page report that I produced for that one.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to
Lindsay, I think we used the image you sent me.
attention if you can read that.
As far as the map, I've also pulled up the property listing map to use that dynamic map.
4336. Do you see that at the bottom, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. And what information is contained on line 4336?
It has, the first column has the number, then it has device events. The next column that's populated has a date of 6/7/2021, 8:17:15 p.m. UTC -4 start time. Then the column, 2 columns over, it has unplugged, and this information was obtained from the Knowledge C database.
What does unplugged mean?
It would indicate that the phone was unplugged, whether from a vehicle or from a wall or a computer that it was charging.
The screen you see when you look back on the lawyers is actually, I think, one of the clerks.
And I'm going to show you again, states 283. And you previously explained that as a report you prepared off of Maggie's Selbrecht phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's a timeline report, correct?
Yes, sir, the device events.
All right. And at this time, state would move to introduce Exhibit 283 into evidence.
Lindsay, we still haven't seen any of the displays and exhibits that the court has seen live. They've been very good about not showing us anything, so we're getting it after the fact. Okay, Jenny, we'll make sure you get welcomed in here on Facebook.
Okay, I'm going to direct your attention to line 4354. Can you see line 4534?
Yes, sir, I can see 4354.
And what's the date and time associated with that log?
4354, the date associated is 6/7/2021 at 8:30:23 p.m. UTC -4.
And what is that data entry?
That entry shows Poshmark buy and sell fashions.
Would that be a website?
Yes, sir.
And what does that indicate to you?
Thanks, Chandra.
Was occurring on his phone at that time?
That it was possibly running in the background.
Okay. Would this be a website that had been previously accessed on his phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to show you a series of entries starting at 4404 here. I want to see if you can read that up there. Can you read 4404?
Yes, sir.
All right. And above that is 4403, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what is that line entry we see at 4403?
It shows that the display was on, and that was obtained from the knowledge seed database.
Okay. And then, this is all June 7, 2021, correct?
Yes, sir, and the time on that one is at 8:49:20 p.m. UTC -4. It shows as a start time.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Display on, what does that mean?
It's when your screen lights up. It's the easiest way I can describe it, and there can be a variety of reasons why it would light up.
All right. Well, let's talk about some reasons. Why don't you list some, please?
If you receive a notification, whether it's a call, a text message, if you have it set to receive notifications from an app, like the CVS app that was previously on there, you receive those notifications, your screen, if it's your phone sitting down and not being used, it'll light up to let you know that you received the notification. It can also light up if you have too much vibration sometimes. If you're walking around tossing your phone up and down, sometimes it can light up.
Because we all do
There's
that.
various reasons why.
Walk around throwing our phones in the air.
Light up.
Could bumping the phone light up the screen?
Yes, sir, it could.
Could picking a phone up light up the screen?
Yes, sir.
Plugging it in.
Of those reasons you gave, some of them sound like there could be human caused, correct?
Yes, sir.
And some of them sound like could be processes that are on the phone itself and requires no external human interaction, correct?
Correct.
All right. So bumping a phone, that's a human interaction. If someone physically bumps a phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
But if a notification comes in and the screen lights up, is that something necessarily the user caused?
No, sir.
So it could just happen on its own?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's look at line 4404, the line below that. And I think we've got the date established, but what time is that line at on line 4404?
It shows a time of 8:49:26 p.m. UTC -4 as a start time.
Okay. And what kind of data entry is that?
It appears to be an SMS or a text message that the phone was processing.
Okay. And then below that, on line 4405, we see a device event, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at the same time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what does this say?
It says that was the 8:49:26 p.m. is an end time, and it shows device locked.
Okay. Well, let's look at 4406 below it. What kind of event is that?
That shows an event of the device unlocked.
Okay. So the phone's unlocked at 8:49:26, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then at line below that, 4407, we see the display is back on, correct?
Yes, sir. It shows display on.
Well, what did we just previously talk about that happened at 8:49:27?
That's when a text message was received.
Was it received or read at that point?
I would have to go back and look at the report. I believe it was read.
Okay. It was read?
Yes, sir.
And so when you see this sequence of events on this timeline log, what would you associate that with, knowing the fact that there was a text message read at that time?
That a text message was received on the phone, that the phone was unlocked to read the text message.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter. I don't use it a lot.
I think I might
do
find
post
that report again, which is
a little bit about all our live streams when they're done. So if somebody needs to be notified that way. Would the gunshot make the phone light up? Yeah, probably.
That's the wrong one, sorry. 282, my apologies, 282. Just to refresh your memory, why don't you go back and look at that event at 8:49:27. I believe it was the text thread.
Welcome, Herb. Good to have you here.
Family members.
Thanks for admitting to being an addict. You'll fit right in.
Yes, sir, I found it.
And what time did that text message arrive on the phone?
It arrived at 8:31:47 p.m.
All right, and what time is it read?
It's read at 8:49:27 p.m.
Okay. And so just so we don't get things confused or mixed up, that text message had been on the phone for a few minutes anyway by that point, correct?
Yes, sir.
But it wasn't read until 8:49:27, correct?
Correct.
All right, let's keep going here for a minute. All right, let's look at line 4409. Do you see that line on your screen, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is this line? What does this represent?
This is a line that indicates the start of an orientation change of the phone.
Okay, and what is an orientation change?
An orientation change would be if you take your phone, it's considered portrait if you're holding it straight up. If you turn it to the side, it's considered landscape, and that would be changing the orientation of it from straight up to sideways.
So what can cause an orientation change?
It would have to be somebody
to the
moving
ground.
the phone. As far as if I'm holding my phone up to talk to somebody or to look at something on there scrolling, and then I hold it down by my side, it's going to cause it to change orientation. Or if I rotate it in my hand to watch a video, it's going to cause an orientation change.
So could picking up a phone to read a text message cause an orientation change?
Yes, sir, depending on where you're holding it to start with.
And can you think of any process on a
talk over
phone
this?
that would cause an orientation change to log other than a human holding the phone?
No, sir, not that I've seen.
Well, one possibility I'm going to ask you about is if, say, a phone's dropped, could that cause an orientation change?
It would have to tumble end over end, like down steps, for instance, and it would have to be on to be able to record that orientation change.
Okay. All right. Let's go down to line 4412. Do you see that, sir? I'll scoot it up.
Yes, sir, I do.
And what does that line show?
That line shows the start time of the device being locked.
Okay, and what time is that?
It's at 8:49:31 p.m. UTC -4.
All right, and I can hand this phone to you, or excuse me, this report back to you. We'll come back to this report. So the phone was locked at 8:49:31, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you look in that report and determine if at any point later that night the phone was unlocked?
This would be some fun data to go through. See, does he have to flip through all 87 pages here? Oh, I think he's found what he's looking
I
for.
do see on here where it does show that the lock stage ended on 6/8/2021 at 1:10:35 p.m. UTC -4.
And that's the next day, correct?
Yes, sir. That's the next afternoon at 1:10 p.m.
Okay, so that phone was locked between 8:49:31 and 1:10 p.m. the next day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Whoa. Her phone was locked until 1:10 the next day?
All right, and I'm going to go right back to look at line 4414.
AJ, this is awesome.
4413.
This is great news. Did
We
you
just
tell them you
discussed
have to be here for the
4412,
live
which is
streams,
the
though?
phone being locked at 8:49:31, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you see any entries? What time is the next entry on this report?
Could you repeat which number you're looking at?
On line 4412, we see the phone is locked at 8:49:31, which is what you just testified to, correct?
Yes, sir.
What time is the next event on this log?
The next event on the log shows the display off at 8:53:08 p.m.
Okay. Is there anything that occurred on this report between those two times on this phone?
Not on the device activities report or the device event report.
Okay. And at 8:53:08, what do we see?
We see that it's the end time for the display off.
Okay, and that's line 4413.
Yes, sir.
And then we see at 4414, what happened?
It's an orientation change.
Okay. And at 4415, what happens?
The display comes on.
Okay. You just said it was an orientation change, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what does that, from your expert opinion, tell you is going on with this phone?
It's an end time for an orientation change from the landscape. In my opinion, the phone's going from being landscaped, to being held like this or in a position like this, to going into the portrait position, which is up.
And you previously testified that there's only a very
Lindsay, I need you to explain
small
this to
number
me.
of things that can cause an orientation change, correct?
Correct.
And it's most likely that that's a
I need the-
human-caused event, correct?
I need the date,
Correct.
time of when it was last used and when it wasn't, because Mr. Murdaugh's mannerisms changed drastically
However,
as he
you can't
testified
testify
to
to today as to who held that phone at that time, correct?
Correct.
that. Holy cow, jury's back in Jensen. Well, wow. I guess they got a verdict.
All right. And let's keep going here for a little bit. We're at 8:53:12, and, excuse me, 8:53:24, and that's line 4417. What do you see again?
It shows an end time for orientation change from portrait.
Okay. And then we see lines 4418 and 4419, we see the display come on and off, correct?
Yes, sir. It shows the end time of display on, and then it shows the start time of display off.
All right, we'll go to the bottom of that page and we'll look at lines 4428 and 4427. What do you see there, sir?
On 4428, it shows the start time at 8:54:40 p.m. of the orientation change to landscape. At 4429, it shows the end time, which is at 8:54:44 p.m., orientation change from landscape.
And my apologies, I meant to direct you to lines 4426 and 4427. What do you see in those lines?
Sorry about that.
On those lines, it shows at 8:54:34 p.m. It shows the start time of the camera and the phone.
All right. And how long is that camera on for, that you can tell?
It appears to be on for 59 seconds. Or, yes, 59 seconds. I'm sorry, 1 second.
1 second.
I'm sorry, doing math sometimes gets me.
It's okay. All right, so that camera's on for 1 second. In your opinion, what does that tell you is happening on this phone?
It appears the phone's being moved
On the
and
right
the
side, we're
camera's
watching,
activating in the background to see if it would
Jensen's trial here
recognize
right now.
somebody's face that would unlock it.
So the phone is attempting to face unlock, correct?
Yes, sir, that's what it appears.
But you just testified that after
Might be a question.
8:49:31, the phone never unlocked, correct?
Correct.
So with this camera entry, does the phone successfully unlock?
No, sir.
Yeah, I think
Now,
it's a
can you
question.
tell us what that camera was looking at? Do you have any data that would suggest specifically what the camera was looking at?
No, sir, I don't know where the camera was being pointed at.
So you could be looking at the ground,
Yes, sir.
the sky,
Yes, sir.
somebody's face other than Maggie Murdaugh?
Yes, sir.
But if that camera had seen Maggie Murdaugh's face, what would you expect to happen?
I would expect for it to unlock.
Do you want both audios? Let me turn down the audio on 2 here just for a minute. Which is, we're turning down Murdaugh. We're going to listen to the judge and Jensen just for a minute.
Okay, let's keep going.
If that will work. Come on.
All right, let's look at line.
Shouldn't be any objection to that, so
4434.
we'll give them a flip chart,
And
markers.
this is at time 8:55:32.
And Scotch tape.
What do you see there, sir?
On the other
It
side,
shows the end time,
Okay.
orientation, portrait, which
Looks like
means
they're
it's
asking
ending
flip
in
chart
that
markers and
orientation.
Scotch tape.
So again, at that time, would it be your opinion that phone was held in somebody's hand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They want certain items. All right, that's good. Yeah. I can do 4
Let's
courtrooms
look
at once,
real
but the
quick.
audio gets really
Bottom of that
confusing.
page, and that's line 4441. And what is that information there?
And 4441 comes from the activity sensor data, and that's at 9 o'clock even PM, and it shows steps. It also shows distance traveled.
Okay. And let's talk about the steps for a minute. You've produced another report that specifically focused on steps that you pulled from this phone, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
And that shows more granular data of when steps occurred.
Thanks
than
for the
this report
updates,
shows,
guys.
correct?
Appreciate you guys.
Correct.
And so just because we see
That would've
9
been
o'clock
fast.
on this report, does that mean that steps occurred exactly at 9 o'clock on this phone?
No, sir, it's the 2 after the 9 o'clock on that, which means it would be a range as
Okay.
far as, example would be like 9
Creative
to
B.
10.
That's
foot
awful.
steps.
And you prepared another report that would show specific steps during a specific time range, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Creative B said, Debbie said what everyone was thinking. We need to hang up the pictures in the jury room. You guys are hilarious.
All right, let's look at line 4447. What do you see there?
4447 shows from the call log database an incoming call at 9:04:23 PM.
Okay, and who's that call from?
It's from phone number 1-803-942-1227 PA.
And that's the call that we discussed in Maggie's specific call log, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And that's at 9:04:23, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was that call answered?
No, sir, it showed no time that that call was answered.
All right, let's look at the bottom of that page, line 4454. At 9:06:12, what do we see there?
At 9:06:12 shows the start time of an orientation change to portrait.
Okay. And again, in your opinion, what does that tell you about whether this phone is in someone's hand?
In my opinion, it would be in somebody's hand that was changing it from landscape up to portrait, lifting it.
And that's at 9:06 and 12 seconds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to line 4456. Can you read that, sir?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. And line 4457. What
Yes,
is
sir.
line 4456 and 57 associated with?
They're associated with a phone call that was incoming to Maggie's phone.
Okay. And what is the time on that call?
It's at 9:06:14 PM.
2 seconds after that orientation change, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that call came after the orientation change, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, you can't tell us whose phone, or your digital forensics can't tell us whose hand that phone was in at that point.
Correct.
All you can tell us was the phone was locked at that point, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to hand this back to you, and I want you to review this report. And I want to have you tell us if that is the final orientation change in 906-12 or not. You see if you see any further orientation changes after that point.
I agree. When this testimony started coming out, I think Alex responded in a nervous manner. That's the best I could say. Yeah, I thought that was a huge oversight.
I do see the end time for the orientation of portrait that it recorded.
Okay, what time was that?
It was at 9:06:20 p.m.
Okay. And when you say end time, what do you mean?
It's just the time that it recorded that it stopped in recording that portrait mode. It
So you
does
saw
not.
the orient, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. Please finish.
I'm sorry. I was going to say I don't see any orientation change to landscape after that in this report.
Okay. So at 9:06:12, the orientation change starts, correct?
Yes, sir.
At 9:06:14, there's an incoming call from Alex, correct?
Yes, sir.
And after that point, you do not see any more orientation changes, correct?
Correct.
All right, let me direct your attention. Excuse me. You talked about the 9:06:20 orientation change in time, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we see at line 4461, another incoming call, correct?
Yes, sir. That was at 9:06:51 p.m. and that was from 1-803-942-1227 PA.
And that's Alex's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the third phone call within about 2 minutes from Alex, correct?
Yes, sir.
Don't think the jury's going to reach a verdict tonight if they're asking for all this information on the Jensen trial.
And I see an entry at line 4464
Thanks
at
for the updates,
9:07.
Jenny.
Do you see that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
And that's a display on and off, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we've already discussed there could be a number of reasons for that display coming on and off, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the data you see on the phone is not going to be able to tell you exactly why that screen came on, will it?
Correct.
All right, line 4466. What is this?
4466 shows a text message received incoming at 9:08:58 p.m. From the phone number 1-803-942-1227 Alex to Maggie Murdaugh.
What does that text say?
It says, "Going to check on M, be right back."
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. That call occurred at the last call from Alex occurred at 9:06:51, correct?
Yes.
And the text came from Alex at 9:08:58, correct?
Yes.
And this was a text that was never read, I believe you testified to in the previous report, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you calculate the time between 90651 and 90858, please. Take your time. If you need a pen, we can get you.
It would be
It appears to be
subtraction.
2 minutes and 7 seconds.
There's 2 minutes and 7 seconds between that call from Alex to that text from Alex, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
Thank you. Okay, let's look at lines 44, 65, and above it, 44, 68, and above that's obscured because it's stapled at 44, 67. Do you see those two entries?
Yes, sir.
And we see that's, mobile SMS at 90858. Is that a data entry associated with that incoming text from Alex we just talked about?
Yes, sir, it is.
And what time is that again?
It's 9:08:58 p.m.
Okay.
I think they
What's
are
the
going to be
next entry on that
sequestered.
log?
in
The next
Jensen's
entry on the
trial.
log is at 9:31:44 p.m. Shows an end time of display off.
And I'm not going to ask you to do the precise math this time, but roughly how many minutes is that between 908:58 and 9:31:44?
This is a prosecutor. Ed.
Approximately 22 minutes.
For 22 minutes, nothing happens on that phone, correct?
Correct.
There's no orientation changes, the phone's not unlocked, there's no incoming calls, nothing outgoing, correct?
Correct.
The phone just sits there for approximately 22 minutes.
Correct.
All right. And what do we see start happening at 9:31:44?
We see that the display comes on is the start time of that.
Okay. And we've talked about this already.
Probably a notification.
We see the display come on and off a few times in that short span of time at about 9:31 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
But it's just a display coming on. Do you see anything associated with that display coming on?
No, sir, not until approximately the 9:34:14 p.m.
All right. We'll get to that in a second. But at least for this display coming on, there seems to be no cause for that, correct?
Correct.
And you previously testified, the screen coming on doesn't tell you a whole lot, does it?
No, sir.
It could be the phone is being bumped or moved in some way, correct?
Yes, sir.
It could be the phone's just sitting there and there's some sort of automatic process that causes that phone to light up, correct?
Correct.
If the phone was in her pocket.
You start talking about it, but we see
someone stepped on her leg or something.
On line 44,
This could be enough to trigger it.
4477, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's at what time?
That's at 9:34:14 p.m.
And which contact is that from?
It shows the contact of Rogan.
And what does that text message say?
It says, "Tell Paul to call me."
All right. And you previously testified about this in her text message log. Was that text message ever read?
No, sir.
No cameras back there that we know of, unfortunately. This is out in the sticks. It's out in the boonies.
All right, we're going to skip down a little bit. And I'm on line 4498. Yeah, 98. And we see there, it looks like an incoming call, correct?
Yes, sir.
And who's that from?
It is from PA with the phone number of 1-803-942-1227.
And was that call answered?
No, sir.
I can trigger my phone on a desk by stepping in the room. So it just depends, I guess, how sensitive it is. And I've got an iPhone.
And line 4503, what time is that entry?
That entry is at 9:47:23 p.m.
All right. And what is that?
It is a text message that was received on that from Alex. It says, "Call me, babe."
And was that text ever read? I know that's referencing the previous report.
No, sir, that text was not read.
He's not emotional at all at this part.
I'm gonna hand this report back to you, and I want to have you look at the next few pages.
I'm in an old house. The wooden floor creaks a little bit. So my phone's on the desk. I step on the floor.
That would indicate
the phone on the desk turns on.
that anybody actively used that phone after that last text call.
I am.
Not on 6/7/2021.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 284. Take a look at that and tell us what it is, please.
Is this Paul's phone? Please give us Snapchat before the end of the day.
This is an Axiom report by Magnet Forensics that I prepared from Maggie's phone with health data information and steps.
Okay. So they include steps from Maggie's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
At this time, State will move into
It's admitted.
Sharon, do you want to trade? I have got about 1 million repairs to do in this house.
I'm going to direct you to record 22.
But it's over 100 years old, so.
Nope. Record 23, excuse me. All right, record 23. What information does this record tell us?
This record tells us that 38 steps were recorded by this phone on 6/7/2021 at 8:17:41 p.m. was the start time, and the end time was 6/7/2021 at 8:18:29 p.m.
And how many steps were taken at that time?
38 steps.
And this is a report that shows the precise time when the steps, at least the phone recorded the steps started and when they stopped, correct?
Correct.
All right, let's talk about that for a minute. Steps on a phone. How does the phone record steps? How does it decide that there are steps taking place?
It's several different ways it can record. It's depending on how the phone's carried as to how many steps it records. If you carry a phone in your hand and you walk, it's going to record more steps. If you carry it on your waist in a phone case, it's not going to record as many steps because it's not detecting the motion. It's not 100% accurate as far as the steps. There are ways that if you're trying to meet your fitness goal, for instance, you can try to trick a phone or a smartwatch into believing you did more activities and more steps than you actually did.
I do that every day. What's the PA question?
But at a more fundamental level,
Private
what
assistant?
is the phone using
What's the
to
context?
determine
I'd answer
where
if I
the steps are
can.
taking place?
It's a process running inside the phone that is recording the motion.
What is it used to record the motion?
Accelerometer.
As far as
Would it be accelerometers?
Yes.
it would, a lot of times it would be. Some of the newer ones are recording actually more than that as far as recording strides and things like that, the newer versions.
All right. And in your opinion, you know, the steps that a phone records, is it always 100% accurate?
No.
And so this says 38 steps. Does that necessarily mean that whoever was holding his phone actually moved exactly 38 steps?
No, sir.
But what does it tell you in a more general sense?
In a more general sense, it tells me that this phone, somebody was holding this phone and took steps, and it recorded steps.
All right. And let me reference back to the previous report. I believe you testified that at 8:17, Maggie's phone was unplugged, correct?
Yes, sir, it was.
All right. And then at 8:17, we start to see steps again, correct?
Yes, sir.
I missed it. I'm not sure what it meant.
All right, let's look at record 25. All right, and what does this show, record 25?
This shows that 43 steps were recorded by the phone. At 8:40 p.m. was the beginning, and it ended at 8:33:28 p.m.
Okay. All right, and let me point out something real quick. The entry above that, which is record,
Yeah, this is good stuff too. I love it.
the record number associated with it, but it says 8:10. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I see an entry at 8:10:31, just above that record 25. What is that entry at 8:10:31? You see that?
At 8:10:31, it looks like it's part of a previous record. From the previous page, it shows the duration in minutes of 4.58.
Okay. And so some of these are a little bit out of chronological order, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, but the times that are recorded in each record is accurate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Even if some of these entries seem to have gotten out of order, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain why that happened when you made this report?
I set it to produce in chronological order. Sometimes, though, when the report goes through, it will not do that. It's just an issue we've had with that report, where it'll move it out of chronological order, but the information's still there and it's still accurate.
Okay, let's look at record 26. What do you see in record 26?
In record 26, I see that 59 steps were recorded by the phone at 8:53:15 p.m. Begin and end at 8:55:32 p.m.
Okay, and again, how many steps was that?
It was 59 steps.
Okay. And I think you previously testified, we were looking at the timeline, it looked like someone was manipulating with that phone, correct?
Correct.
You saw some orientation changes, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
We saw the camera come on at approximately that time, correct?
Correct.
But the phone's locked, correct?
Correct.
All right. I want to give this back to you, report, to have you look at it real quick. And you've also, I know, have studied this phone data in more detail than just in that report. Are you aware, after that 8:53 entry, of that phone ever recording any more steps?
No, sir. The next set of steps it shows it recorded was on 6/8/2021 at 3:12:22 p.m.
Okay. The next day?
The next day, yes, sir.
And let's circle back to that real quick. I know you were not present for the collection of Maggie's phone. Is that correct?
Correct.
But generally, the circumstances, as you understand them, are what and how it was collected?
The phone was collected from the side of the road. It was given to crime scene, who brought it back and logged it into our forensic lab, at which point I went over, logged it out of the forensic lab, and then took it over to our office to log it in.
And but it was not collected till the next afternoon, correct? Or
Correct.
found until the next afternoon, excuse me.
Correct. My understanding is it was found on 6/8/2021.
All right. I think we're at a good stopping point.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will adjourn for the evening and start back at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Please do not discuss the case.
All right, so Mark Jensen's trial also adjourned for the day. The jury has not made a decision yet. So this is interesting. Lindsay, I'm going to count on you doing some homework tonight. I know you want to go back and watch this with a piece of paper and record all the. If I can get this to work here, there we go. All the timeline and just see what happened, because we've got the alibi of Alex Murdaugh and a timeline that he's locked down in the alibi to prove that he could not be the one that did it, right? And then we have the timestamps of the phones, and where they don't agree, that's going to be the most interesting. I wouldn't say we have any new motives today, 6-volt bus, but definitely we've got some evidence that is going to be very interesting to dig into in the details. I hope the prosecution spells it out for the jury a little bit better than we've had so far. Right now it's just raw data pretty much. But let's see, let's take a peek at these guys. Everyone's just cleaning up for the day. Buster's still there in the courtroom. You can see his bright red hair. He's moving out now. They're doing a little strategizing here. It's interesting. Alex Murdaugh does seem to get a little bit different treatment than we've seen in other cases, and I'm not sure because we haven't followed one in South Carolina before. But he hangs out, talks with his family, gets food, stuff, gummies, candies, stuff like that. Court's over, and now he just gets to meet with the attorneys a little more. The deputies just stand there and wait. So it's interesting. Throwing the phone out is suspicious. Yeah, but there's nothing yet that proves that he's the one who threw the phone. I mean, we have to draw that connection between the two. He's popular. It has perks. Will I be covering the trial of a 14-year-old killed by another student? Name escapes me now. We've got a math teacher murder coming later in the year with 2 students that killed their math teacher over a bad grade. The Virginia shooting, the 6-year-old that shot, or the kindergartner or whatever that shot the teacher, I don't think that's ever going to go to trial. Other than there's going to be a huge lawsuit. That teacher is going to sue the school district and everyone associated with it that knew that that heard there was a gun and did nothing about it. So there's going to be a huge settlement there. Yes, he does get handcuffed, and he'll be taken in the paddy wagon back to the jail. That's some footage that a lot of the reporters show every day. You can find it on Twitter and stuff. But people are leaving here. What's with the backpack? The suit and the backpack. That's an interesting mix. Mr. Murdaugh is not ready to be locked up yet. He's got work to do. Deputy's like, come on, you got to go. We got to go. He's got all these files he's going to take with him back to the jail. Grab one more candy for the road. And now he's out of here. What did he just grab? Those are the jury chairs right there, which are pretty comfortable. They look pretty good. They're swivel chairs. Pretty cool. All right. Let's see. Let me catch up. Mark Jensen jury was not sequestered for the night. Joan, that's interesting. They get to go home. Tristan Bailey and Aiden Fauci. Fucci, sorry. You say that wrong and suddenly it brings in a whole other group of people. That's the one where the mom washed his clothes, the tennis shoes, video camera footage, him walking back sort of barefoot with the shoes, wet shoes. I don't know about that one. We'll have to look at the timelines to see how they match up. Because there are others that we've promised to follow. If you guys have the dates on that one, let me know. If it fits, we'll watch it. I'm not sure if it'll be streamed due to his age. Depends how he's charged. Is he charged as an adult? Because then they might do it. I need fingerprints from the phone. Not the paddy wagon. Let's see. He's going for that college-bound lawyer look. He's got armloads of documents he's taking back to jail. Stuff he's working on. I can't keep up with all the characters of this case. I thought the Buster was the nickname of Paul. Nope. Paul is the deceased son, and Buster is the live son. Buster's the one who sort of was flunking out of lawyer school, quit and got a job at like a fast food restaurant or something. And his dad really wanted him to go back and, do what he had to do to get back into law school. Okay, the judge lied about the evidence after he ruled against it coming in. The judge lied about the evidence after he ruled against it coming in and gave the jury the documents anyway. With all circumstantial, I'll be on my knees tonight praying for justice. Which case are you talking about, Roxanne? The judge lied about the evidence? Let's see. I think they have her phone walking around when police are there examining her body. Oh, TW. Oh, my goodness. So, like, Alex had it in his pocket type thing? Oh, man. That one's scheduled for... Man, can't we just have them all coordinate with our schedule so we can have just one trial at a time? He is being tried as an adult. What state is he in? What state is Fucci in? He threw the phone after he killed him when he went home and showered before he saw his mom. This is going to be horrible. The stabbing alone in that one is just brutal. The autopsy photos on that are going to be... They will give the jury members nightmares for the rest of their lives. Thank you, Natural Empress. Thank you for being here. Aiden's being held in an adult jail because of where he's located, so has no ability to isolate a teen killer. Charged as an adult, he's 16 now. Yeah, it's a pretty gross crime. And the mom had a part in this, right? Didn't she like take his clothes and wash them? The Lawyer You Know channel covers the case with this information. I'll have to watch him and see what he's got. He got kicked out of law school for cheating. Oh, that's one way to get kicked out of school. Buster is the star of the family now. I hope he gets to stay away from law and escapes. Run, free Buster, run. He was the one that was photographed in Las Vegas right after he got basically power of attorney over the money, right? That weekend he went to Vegas gambling. Lindsay's been great sharing documents with me. If you do find anything, Lindsay, for sure, please let me know. Let me know what you find. Ashley took a lot. I took a lot of time notes. Good. Let us know how they match up, especially on these cell phones. It's so hard to follow as we're reading line after line. I trust your ability to connect the dots better than the prosecutions at this point. All right. Anybody else? Last steps recorded at 8:55. Last on display was 9:31. I think he's dumped the phone on the way back from Mom's house. GPS tomorrow hopefully will help. Death penalty's off the table for Fucci. Okay. She did wash his clothes. The parents have quite the record too. How much does a Gucci wallet cost? At least $1,000, right? At least $1,000. Carol Martin, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Christy Brown as well. Enjoyed listening. Welcome. Come back anytime. You're one of us now. Let's see. Abby, thank you for being here. As always from the UK, one of our great early OG mods. Good night, Creative B. Good to have you. Thank you so much. We're going to play some music as we come to an end here. They need to conform to our schedule. They do. We need to post it out there, and the judges should all work with us. Okay. Thank you all. Virtual hugs to everybody. You guys are amazing. Please, tonight when you go home, hug the people you love, smile at somebody, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again tomorrow at 9 a.m. because we have more of this. I do expect probably tomorrow a verdict out of the Jensen trial, so we'll probably try to cover that. Oh, man. I don't know. We'll see. Wednesday night I've got my meeting. There's always a verdict on Wednesday night. We'll see what happens. But thank you all. You guys are great. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Eat some SMB pickles, some spicy maple bourbon pickles. Go to your local Walmart, pick up a new jar for $3.84 plus tax, and enjoy the heaven which is contained in that jar. I love them. I wish they'd sponsor the show. Please, Walmart, if you're listening, spicy maple pickles are the best. They're the only ones that have them. Call me on the burner phone. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. We'll see you.